Good morning and welcome to the Berry County Board of Commissioners meeting for August 25th, 2026. If you would please stand for our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this beautiful day in Berry County. We ask that you continue to guide and bless these commissioners as we debate things that'll affect all of our constituents today. We have a lot of things to cover, so we just ask for your hand be upon us and guide us until we can do the best things for all those involved in our county. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. There's the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For purposes of attendance, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett? Here. Carlton?
Here.
Campbell?
Here.
Getty?
Here.
Hatfield?
Here.
Jackson?
Here.
Smelker?
Here.
Tunison?
Here.
Thank you. Reports from state or county officials. Are there any state or county officials with us this morning who would like to give an update to the board? Good morning.
My hands are busy, so I will permit.
Thank you very much.
So I just wanted to provide a quick update on the COA, the new facility. So we are in the final couple of weeks of construction. When I go out every day, something new has happened. Sometimes not as much as I want, but that's okay. We're down to finishing, mostly finishing touches. So we do have our walkthrough next Tuesday morning, for our punch list, so to determine what's still hanging out there. We should be all set to go. The equipment actually, our new office furniture will actually start to go in next Friday. And then after Labor Day, the rest of the office furniture and the kitchen equipment will get moved. So again, that's 2 weeks away. So kind of crazy. So each of our services does have a little bit of a different shutdown schedule. Clients have already been being notified of that. One of the main concerns that we get from the community is about our Meals on Wheels delivery and what that looks like. So we obviously can't be delivering while our equipment is in transit. So we have been, actually this week they'll start getting extra meals, then next week they'll get more, and then we'll do one final delivery that Tuesday after Labor Day. So everyone will have received meals to cover the period that we will not be delivering. So all of our emergency preparedness plans have been enacted basically, and so all of that will be taken care of. So if there are certain seniors that need to be checked in on during that shutdown period, we also will address that individually. So we do have those that will be just giving a phone call to. We are looking at receiving occupancy on September 11th. We are hoping to move our actual computer equipment that day. So the COA offices will close Friday, September 11th, and then Monday and Tuesday of the following week.
Sorry. Oh, wow. Oh. Good thing I talk loud though. I think you all heard everything except the people online. Sorry. We hope to then, so our last day in our current facility will be Thursday, September 10th. Our first day open in our new facility will be Wednesday, the 16th. So, and then we have lots of fun parties planned to celebrate. Our back parking lot could be hanging out there a little bit, may not quite be done. There's a rooftop unit that needs a couple extra parts that we're waiting on. So that timing is still a little bit up in the air. It's gonna be really close, but other than that, and we've been told we can get occupancy without the back parking lot being done. So, any questions? That was really fast. I'm super sorry, but.
Questions from commissioners?
How long do you think you'll be down with Meals on Wheels?
So we'll be gone down to, we'll deliver, our final day will be September 8th. We'll start on the 16th.
Okay,
So
Good.
it's a week, yeah.
Thank you.
So, yep. And again, we have 500 extra meals going out this week to cover for that. So, yeah, kudos to staff. I mean, we're packing while we're doing that. So there's a lot going on if you stop at COA. We are going to utilize Day of Caring to move some of our like financial boxes and stuff like that. So the timing, while it was a little bit later than what we originally thought, actually worked out really well. We're going to save some moving costs by utilizing volunteers. And we are looking at having a garage sale on the 18th and 19th to not take some stuff with us.
There you go.
So,
Well, I think it's fantastic that we have been talking about this for several years and we're getting right down to the goal line now, so.
it's super
And
crazy.
you look pretty calm for everything that's going on right now,
Oh,
so.
I'm going to tell my staff you said that.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing the new facility.
I can't wait for you guys all to see it. It's going to be fun. Thanks.
Are there additional reports from state or county officials? Okay. Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes. The first public comment is for items on our agenda this morning.
Good morning. My name is David Williams. I live at 11511 Snowshoe Lane. This is about the Canterbury Lake drawdown and fixing of the dam. Last Thursday, we got our first meeting. Whoop, still not. Nope, thought I was loud enough, sorry. We got our first meeting with Jim and several of the other individuals. And originally, the cost to the property owners was divided up by Lakeshore. Then we argued that our amount of Lakeshore was only 85 feet instead of the 211 feet. Within 24 hours, Jim did an excellent job, redid the bidding or what it was going to cost us. But then yesterday, we found out that they've decided to change it again to equal owners of the entire lake for the repair of the dam, which was a 20% increase, almost $8,000. And that just seems kind of strange. Also with that, we did myself and one other person went out on the lake, did a topographical measurement of the lake. From the meeting of last Thursday, it was told we were going to draw the water down 8 feet so that they could work on the dam. Well, at the north end, there's between 2 and 4 feet. On the south end, there's between 4 and 6 feet. Okay, I see my timer up there now. At most 7 feet. So if they draw the whole lake down, they're going to have to kill all the fish unless they're going to find another way to take care of the fish. They have to delay the drawdown because of taking care of the rattlesnakes. They got to delay the water coming back into the lake because they don't want to drown the turtles. What are they going to do with the fish? The original document right now says it's $104,000 for the repair. We're being billed $400,000 because of legal fees and other investigations that have been done. Okay. In speaking with Jim also, they're going to take the pipe, or where the pipe was originally laid was on the actual bottom of the river. So to fix that, they're going to have to drain the whole lake, and the DNR is not, oh God, only going to give them, they're going to kill all the fish, and the DNR is not going to let them do that. They don't have the billing correct, they don't have the project correct, and they want to start it right away. I asked that they delay it until springtime when they have a better understanding of how much it's going to cost, what they're actually going to do, and then the division of who's going to pay for it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Got it in. And that was Canterbury Lake?
Yes.
Okay.
I try to sit so that I don't get the sun in my face. Good morning. My name is Tiffany Dry. I live at 7873 Marsh Road. I'm also on Canterbury Lake, and I echo all of the things that Mr. Williams just said, but primarily I'm here just to Because I'm disappointed in the change in the assessment at the last minute. We were provided with an assessment that, like he said, was like a base amount plus frontage, which I think the homeowners all kind of were good with for the most part. It was just we were discussing, are the lake frontages correct? Which for those of us, myself included, Mr. Williams, I looked like anybody below 200 feet of frontage was just made to 211, and then everybody else was apples to apples. Like if you had 250, you got 250. So that was our concerns, that ours didn't match everybody else's. And like Mr. Williams said, Jim did correct that and then sent out to everyone what said final assessment, and that had corrected the frontages for everyone, left the base, corrected the frontages. And then we thought that was it. It said final, but it wasn't signed. And then yesterday afternoon, less than 24 hours ago, we received the new assessment with a completely different allocation, like Mr. Williams said, just breaking it up from 9 homeowners for an even split. Doesn't quite sit okay with me because, I have a 2-acre parcel, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. I have 100 feet of frontage. My neighbors have 20, acres, 1,200 feet. Our taxes aren't the same. It doesn't make sense to me that, if I could afford an $800,000 piece of property, I'd have bought that, right? So for us to pay the same assessment doesn't make sense to me. So, and then I have the same concerns about the fish. Have we figured out exactly if that's going to work? Is there something we can put around the exact spot, I've seen in construction sites that, keep that area for the gentleman to work, clear of water, but then the water kind of stays. I think you draw it down a little bit, but anyways, there are things that I think that could be done that would save the aquatic life, and I don't know if that would speed up the maybe keep costs down, I don't know, but my main concern is the assessment at this time.
Thank you. Additional public comment? No.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. My name is Desmond Herbert. I live at 7847 Marsh Road on the northwest side of Canterbury Lake. I've been there for 7 years. My wife and I came and retired. Did not even know there was a dam or a dike on the property, so this was a huge surprise in retirement years that $44,000 plus financing over 20 years. It's a big thing. But we moved to live on a lake, and it failed, was pretty much ready to fail, ignored by the private landowner that owned the dam, ran off, and sold all his property. This was in 21, and we were all concerned that we were going to lose our lake. Still are. There was a precedent when we moved in. When we found out that the owner hadn't even had the dam inspected for 10 years, which is 2 cycles of inspections. We went back and found that the owner prior would have it inspected every 5 years. He would take the invoice, and then he would divide it by the number of people on the lake, send them a copy of the bill, and everybody paid equally. Because whether you own 50 feet of lake frontage or 5,000, you're still on the lake. You look out the window, you see the lake, you go out fishing. You don't just fish at the end of your own dock. People are fishing in front of my place. It's one of the more, it's a little deeper. We wave and say hello. It's very neighborly there. So I was surprised that we were going by percentage of the lakefronts. Mine is probably a little bit on the higher side toward the middle, but we don't use it all. We just use a little bit. But by the time anybody would say, well, we're just going to bill you for the part that you use or the lake frontage you have, yes, it was done last minute because people were complaining that their lake frontage measurements weren't right. But there's this precedent that if you live on the lake, you live on the lake. If we don't fix this dam, we're not going to have a lake. We won't have a lake with fish in it. I don't fish, but we've got a couple of guys on the lake that absolutely love it. If we have to lose some fish to fix the lake, we can restock the lake. If that lake goes down, we wait. We don't know how it's gonna fill up if they wait until spring. Next year is a wash. Jim's been working on this way too long. We thought this would be done years ago, and we just don't want to see it postponed. The percentage of the lakefront is only 15% of the total bill. It's not a lot of difference from one household to the other. But the principle of the thing is, everybody on the lake, in my opinion, should be in on it together. And is that my time?
That's your time.
Okay, thank you for hearing me this morning.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Hearing none, we will move ahead with our agenda. Approval of the written agenda. At this time, any member of the Board of Commissioners may ask for an item to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under items for consideration. Hearing no such request, does any commissioner wish to change the agenda additionally? Hearing no such request, the agenda is approved as written. Various correspondence. Does any commissioner have correspondence they'd like to share with the board? Hearing none, consent agenda. Commissioner Smelker.
Mr. Chair, I move for the approval of August 11th, 2026 Board of Commissioner meeting minutes.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Smelker, support by Tunison. For all items listed on the consent agenda, discussion is not allowed and a roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye, opposed vote nay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett? Aye. Calton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Hatfield?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smelker?
Aye.
Tunison?
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. This morning, we have no presentations and we have no public hearings. So we will move on. The chair would entertain a motion for approval of claims in the amount of $119,120.95.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Getty, support by Hatfield for approval of claims in the amount of $119,120.95. Is there discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett? Aye. Calton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Hatfield?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smelker?
Aye.
Tunison?
Aye.
The motion is approved. Next on our agenda, Jim Dahl.
Good morning, Commissioners. We got two lake special assessment rolls and sets of computation of costs for you. According to NREPA 307, when we set up a roll and we set up the construction costs, the next step is to go to the Commissioners and have them approve them. The appeal process cannot start until they're approved by the Commissioners. It's a very poorly written statute, and so I'm not even going to try to explain why they set it up that way. But basically, probably for the public to be more informed and on board. You've heard some discussions this morning. We're going to start with Canterbury. We have a total cost of $400,000 with permitting, getting dam safety on board, the construction costs, and I believe all that's in your packet. We also have a roll, and like the folks that were up here a few minutes ago, this has been very, very contentious. It's a huge project with a very tiny district. While we were working through the methodology originally, we figured we'll take the number of parcels, split it evenly. We had one property owner that kicked up a fuss. She said, wait a minute, I've got 98 feet and these people got 1,200 feet, so they should get the biggest bill. So we attempted a methodology of taking the circumference of the lake by GPS, and we divided it up. Took that to the public hearing, and then we had a property owner come forward and said, well, you know, I think I'm gonna have to appeal this because a portion of my lakefront is actually mud, and so you need to adjust it. Chad and I went out there, looked at it, yep, she's got mud. But then when you went to another spot, they had mud. And then you went to another spot and they had brush. So it's like, okay, this is getting a little bit challenging. So we adjusted it again with those changes on it'd be the east end, changing the circumference of the thing. We sent out a new roll Friday night. And we thought we were pretty good. Well, then we had a property owner says, wait a minute. Our assessment, the highest assessment on the roll now became $58,000 and the lowest one's $36,000. We ran it past the lawyers and they said, the law says, what is the benefit to the property owners? And I'm sorry, when you look at a 70% more for one property owner versus the other on a lake that they all use, they all can put a dock in, they all can put a raft in, they all can go fishing, swimming, boating, whatever they want, it would be hard to get in front of a judge if somebody appeals and say, they get 70% more benefit of this lake than these people. So then we talked to Joe yesterday morning and he said, I can't defend that. We have to have something that's defendable in court, and he said he does not believe that would be defended. So we reset it according to the original process of 9 parcels, split 9 ways, and that's the one we took out yesterday. And Joe said, yep, you can change the method there. We have a lot of room to change things around. It just has to come in front of the commissioners when it's done. Now we have more people that said they might appeal it. They cannot start, the appeal process does not start until this commission approves the construction and the assessment roll. And I asked Doug, I said, what if they want us to do it again? He said, well, that's that would be a challenge because we're delegated authority. We attempt to create a role that is fair. And after that, basically, if they appeal, they go to a judge, and he may have a higher mindset that can figure out a better thing. So that one's Canterbury. It's a very, very difficult project. Dave Williams was good enough. We went off the design of the original dam and the depth of the lake, and he took me out there yesterday, and we used his sonar? Something like sonar, depth finder, and found that the lake, now granted, there's a big weed bed, so we don't know for sure how deep the water is. We know where the outlet structure is, it's 12 feet, but it's looking like that whole lake is no more than 12 feet deep, and DEQ's requiring us, they want us to draw it down 8 feet. So we're gonna have a lot of fish in one little spot. So now we're gonna have a discussion with Thomas Horak and say, and the soils and structures people and say, look, is there any way we can get around this? We'll lose most of the fish, or we're gonna be putting them all in buckets and carrying them somewhere else, so. Questions, concerns, thoughts, insights, anything?
So they're not going to wall off the area, pump it out, and work on it? They're gonna drain the lake down?
Legally, according to our permit, we have to take that lake down 8 feet.
Interesting.
Yeah, really, I mean, they put so many restrictions on us, and then, like Dave said, technically, we're not supposed to bring it up after October 15th, because the little rattlesnakes might be buried in the mud, and they will drown. They're not smart enough to get out of there. We can't draw it down until like May of next summer if we do. This lake does not have a big stream coming in. It's spring fed. Any way you go, this is going to be a really nasty project. Now, we haven't reached out to Ross Jackson to see if we could get DEQ to allow us to bring it down less and then put some small sheet piling around where we're thinking. I think we're going to have to investigate that before we can get moving. But the big thing is, they can't even start an appeal process until this board approves the roll and the comp costs.
All right, so you're saying that the concerns that we heard from the residents today will be addressed. You'll work through that with them, but their appeal process can't start until the roll is approved.
Correct. Yep. And like Dave said, the construction costs are $104. The rest of it out of the $400,000 is permitting and soils and structures and borings and all the good stuff. Originally, this project was $650,000, but we worked with the contractor, worked with DEQ to remove a lot of the things that they were asking that we do. Basically, we got it down to, we're gonna reline the steel culvert that's in the underwater. And that got rid of all the concrete, the drop structures, all that stuff. The north dike we're gonna monitor that instead of spending $50,000 to put some new sand in there. So it's hard for all the residents. I don't blame them at all for being upset, and we just don't know we have to create a methodology that's basically bulletproof for appeals. And the only way I can see it is that their assessments are pretty darn close together.
I agree with our constituents' concerns that when we bounce from one assessment roll to a second to a third assessment roll, why there's concern and confusion. So I just want to be sure that their voices are going to be heard, and if there's a methodology that works in the appeal process, that they get a chance for their voices to be heard. I don't, my initial thought was we need to tap the brakes on this and let you work this out with them. But if you're saying that can't happen until we have an assessment roll to work off of, then.
Right, it's real wonky the way they set it up. They don't, which is weird because lakes are always a pain, so.
They're different. Questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Yes.
Isn't there, statewide, some consistent methodology for apportioning these responsibilities? Did it have to reinvent the wheel with every lake?
It varies a lot. The big dams up north that failed, them 4 in a row that failed, Joe Kalani was the same lawyer on that, but he said it's such a huge district, they could simply assess everybody up there, I believe, is assessed the same, but they might know better, because the one lady, they got property up there. So typically, 90%, 95% of your cost is for, whether you're on the lake or not, and then you usually spread a little bit, like lake frontage, like we're doing Long Lake, 40 feet is X amount, 40 to 80 is a hair bit higher, 80 to 120 is a hair bit higher, 200 is a little bit higher. But you got to be able to defend how you came up with the percentage of the change, which is, you got to have some basis for it. The other problem is, how do you decide who has the most valuable property and usable property? Especially with DEQ saying you can't cut brush anymore, you can't dig it out. They've got so many limitations on what people can do with their lakefront property anymore. So we could get into that, where we go out and we do a big study on who's got the best property and how it should be spent or, spread. Of course, that's going to drive the cost up, and we've done everything we could to get it down for these people, because it's an ungodly amount of money. $44,444 spread over 20 years, so that's $2,100 a year on your taxes, plus interest of roughly 5 to 6%. It's just a really nasty, and we even put in for a grant, and we got nowhere with that.
Okay.
And we've expressed to them, the only other option is getting a grant, and the state would probably give us a grant to remove the dam, and then they wouldn't have a dam and they wouldn't have a lake. And they definitely weren't on board with that, which I totally understand, but that's the way the upper echelon of the DEQ is looking at things now. We'll give you money to get rid of it, which is sad.
Commissioner Bassett, do you have a question?
He asked my question.
Okay.
Well,
Commissioner Tunison?
Well, I always have a problem with these things, because no different than when you live on a private road and all of a sudden the pavement's going bad, right? And there's 50 people that live down the road. Well,
yeah,
you're responsible for taking care of the road. No different than a lake.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, if I were to live on a lake, I have the same access to that water, the whole body of the water, as everybody else, right? Yeah, I only have 75 feet of frontage, but why are you on the lake? You're there to enjoy the water, right?
Yep.
So I feel, does it really matter how much frontage you have?
That's a question for the judge.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
100%, yeah.
So I feel that, everybody's kind of equal when you buy in a lake. Crooked Lake has 400 people on it. It's easy to disperse that. unfortunately, when there's only 9 people on one lake, that's a big bite
Yeah.
out of poor people to have to take care of, but what's the alternative? No lake?
Yeah.
If the dam fails? Okay, so, that's, unfortunately, that's kind of where you live, and that's what responsibility you have.
Okay. Any other questions?
I guess I'm comfortable with the idea that we have to approve this in order to allow the appeals process to start, which will address some of the issues. But you've identified a number of other things that you want to do.
Yeah.
How do we insert that into our motion to assure us that those things also get carried through with?
Maybe include them in the minutes. The resolution that's a legal document that I don't know as we can change, but there could be minutes that will reflect that, this should be taken care of.
I think you should definitely look into the sheet piling
Yeah.
Yeah.
and to save that water table. That makes more sense, but.
Yeah. And there's some nice fish in there too. So my maintenance guy said he'll help us out with them.
Great.
I do have a question and follow up to you. Can we make it so they have to come back to us with, how they've resolved these issues or reporting on
It's a
the
judge, isn't it?
appeals or any
I
of that?
think it'll
Is
go
it-
to a judge after this,
That's
that
okay.
once we approve the assessment roll, that's what our
Okay.
obligation is at this point.
Got it, thank you.
Commissioner Getty?
Can you describe what the appeals process looks like?
They file an appeal with the circuit court. That's all it outlines.
And then they
The one-
present their
The one.
appeal to the judge?
The one that we had, but it was on a drain project, which goes through the probate court. Judge Doherty picked 3 people to sit on a board of review. They reviewed the facts. Our lawyers showed up, their lawyers showed up. They present their case, our lawyer presents a case that ours is defendable and how it's defendable and all that good stuff. And then that board decides, whether it's just and whether it should be adjusted. And then it's on them to set up an assessment roll that is, like Doug Kelly always says, it's one big pie. Whether you take the money from Catherine and give it to Dave to pay or vice versa, that's on them and that's why they set it up that way. Now, there is a filing fee and they may require a bond, but, with the fluctuations of the price, it might be worth it. I know the previous roll we had where it was $58,036. If I was on the upper end of that, I'd have filed an appeal in a heartbeat because, gambling a little bit of money to save $10,000, $15,000 is worth it. We do have one up in Kent County with Duncan Lake Inter-County Board. The farmers are filing that appeal. Granted, it's a drain, and they've set that appeal for this morning. They had to put up a $10,000 bond, but their assessment was $120,000 on one property. So it's a real mess.
I guess I'd like to see a more consistent methodology so that we can defend that.
Yeah.
And while I hear what Commissioner Tunison is saying, that everybody has access to the lake, access is access. If access was access, then all these properties would be valued the same, no matter if they had 1,000 feet of frontage or 92 feet of frontage.
That's true.
And so I think there's merit in looking
Yep.
at it, not, equal.
Right. We just couldn't
value.
get down to a 1 or 2 or 3% and be able to defend it. We discussed
I think
that.
consistency is defendable.
Yeah, well, and that's why I say, I know 9 parcels on one lake is defendable. So, but and I'm tickled to death if a judge, it doesn't, like I told the people yesterday, it doesn't hurt my feelings at all. If a judge can do a better job, we're open to that.
Okay. Commissioner Campbell?
I might as well get in on it.
What's,
I think there's a lot of merit in Commissioner Getty's position, and there's also a lot of merit with Commissioner Tunison. So I think we move on and let the judge do what their job is and to sort this thing out.
Yep.
Very, very difficult. There's merit on both sides.
Yep.
Equal merit on
Yeah.
both sides, and that's what makes it difficult.
Okay. Okay.
You'd have to ask the chair.
Is it a question, sir?
Yes, it's about the original inspections that letters were sent out certified in 2005, apparently 2010, 15, and 20.
DEQ dropped the ball.
Okay, so is there a level of responsibility there? Could all of this been avoided if the inspections were done in the time period as set forth by the state? Kind of hard to say now,
Yeah.
but
Well, and that's where we were disappointed because we got a letter from DEQ and I believed it was their responsibility to send it out every time they're supposed to do it. But because this is a private dam, well, before we petitioned it, it was a private dam and it may or may not have, well, it evidently fell off their radar, I'm assuming.
is there a level of responsibility that if you send a certified letter, you're expecting something back? If
Yeah.
you didn't get anything back, the sheriff
Oh,
will
yeah.
also be the next person to say, okay, I'm taking it to the landowner, the property owners, those individuals around the lake. We need to get this inspection done and make sure that, because Chad had said that if the dam were to fail, we would all be sued because of damage to the wetlands.
That's the letter that I believe Rhonda received from DEQ when Thomas Horak came down and found out that it was leaking real bad. They sent him a nice nasty letter and said, if you don't fix this, we're gonna sue you for wetland impacts.
Okay, I never saw that letter.
That's what was, and I think we might have it in our office, but I believe Rhonda is the one that contacted DEQ. And I could reach out to Thomas Horak and see if we can get a copy of that for you.
Well, thank you very much. I apologize for interrupting your proceedings.
I think the short answer is the DEQ does not take responsibility for much, so, Eagle, so.
I'm not saying nothing.
I'll say it. If there are no further questions, the chair would entertain a motion for adoption of Resolution 26-24 approving Canterbury Lake Special Assessment Role and Project Cost.
So moved.
Motion by Tunison, support by Smelker. Any additional discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett?
Aye.
Carlton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Hatfield?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smelker?
Aye.
Tunison?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. Second one is for Crystal Lake. This is a project that we've been working on for several years again, trying to get DEQ permitting. That was a discussion. We're going to leave it at that. The assessment roll is in here. We've had our public hearing. We had one adjustment where our methodology said one lot gets charged X amount, 2 lots gets 1.5. We found out that and so we were going off the description of lots, but it was brought to our attention that one of the lots had a piece of it that was assigned to this one, but it wasn't called out as a lot. So at the meeting, we adjusted it from a 1 and a 1/5 to 2 1.25s. The people that were in attendance, several of the board members thought that was okay, and that's the one we presented to you. This one, we've had numerous meetings trying to figure out what they wanted to do. The last dam inspection report said the upper pond has to be cleaned out according to DEQ. So the project has to be done, and we've sent these rolls to the people, and knock on wood, didn't get any feed or blowback on it. So this one's a whole lot easier. Still has to be done, though.
Okay. $570,000. Questions from commissioners? We've been talking about Crystal Lake for several years now, so, I mean, this has been something that's continued to circle and come back, so. And you see the county does have a fiscal impact that we reduced from
12 to 3.
12 to 3. So, and we'll continue to work on that right sizing. Okay, there are no further questions. The chair would entertain a motion for adoption of Resolution 26-25 approving the Crystal Lake Special Assessment and Project Cost.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Smelker, support by Hatfield for adoption of Resolution 26-25, approving Crystal Lake Special Assessment and Project Cost. Additional discussion or questions? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett?
Aye.
Carlton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Hatfield?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smoker?
Aye.
Tunison?
Aye.
The motion is approved.
Thank you, Commissioners. I know you guys had a really busy schedule. Sorry to get this on. I mean, it was a timing thing. Thank you, Chairman Jackson, for getting it done. See you, kids.
Take care of Canterbury Lake. Be sure their voices are heard. Eric, few different items to go through.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. First item up is at this point, you could have it in the agenda, but we're pushing back the budget one meeting due to a couple different items. One, BSNA transition, which I'll talk more about later. And then the jail project has been a big time drag, and then a lot of staff transition this year. So I'm asking to push it back one meeting, which will still allow us to complete it on required time for statute purposes.
Okay. Questions? Chair would entertain a motion for approval of the updated 2027 budget calendar as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Hatfield, support by Bassett for approval of the updated 2027 budget calendar as presented. Questions or discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett?
Aye.
Carlton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Hatfield?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smoker?
Aye.
Tunison?
Aye.
The motion is approved.
Second item on the agenda for today is the appointment of two deputy medical examiners. This is something that the board does and is required to do as new staff comes on board. We lost two deputy medical examiners to Kent County, or WMed did, not us particularly. But they have asked us to appoint these two as deputy medical examiners for Berry County.
Okay. You've seen this request come across your desk several times, Commissioners, as we continue to circle through these, but any questions or comments? The Chair would entertain a motion for approval to appoint Dr. Fernanda De Silva Lamira, MD, effective 8/3/26, and Dr. Abigail Alexander, MD, effective 9/14/26, as deputy medical examiners for Berry County.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Bassett, support by Hatfield for approval to appoint Dr. Fernanda De Silva Lamira, MD, effective 8/3/26, and Dr. Abigail Alexander, MD, effective 9/14/26, as deputy medical examiners for Berry County. Further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett?
Aye.
Carlton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Hatfield?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smoker?
Aye.
Tunison?
Aye.
The motion is approved.
The final thing I have for you for now is the Stepping Stone CDBG project. You approved this at the July 28th meeting. I'm going to behave myself this morning, but another state agency in its wisdom didn't like the fact that we just said the company will provide the match. They wanted the exact match in the resolution. And since this is a resolution, I could not just change that without your approval. So I'm asking you to update the resolution with that number.
Okay. So this is something that's previously been approved and just being updated.
This is, yep, you're revising the resolution.
Okay. Any questions? The Chair would entertain a motion for approval of a revised resolution 26-21, which authorizes the submission of a CDBG application for Delton Stepping Stones Housing Project, authorizes County Administrator to accept the grant if awarded and sign all necessary documents, and appoints the County Administrator as a certifying officer for the grant.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Bassett, support by Getty. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett?
Aye.
Carlton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Hatfield?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smoker?
Aye.
Tunison?
Aye.
The motion is approved.
So the next item up, you have the second interviews for construction managers for the potential law enforcement project. Clark and Granger are the two that you invited back. Both firms had the opportunity to tour the current facility last week, had a good feel for what they would be working with. I appreciate Sheriff Leaf and his staff for giving us the tour and showing us all the warts, I guess, shall we say, of the facility, all the interesting places they will be working in. So this is your opportunity to get a feel for the firm you want to work with, potentially work with. I've given you some potential questions. Those are used for, at your discretion. You've been provided information on public information campaigns that they've provided in other communities. So at this point, I'll invite Granger to come in. And before that, I just wanted to, any questions you may have of me at this point?
Yeah, before we do interviews, I think we're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break. Be sure everybody's refreshed so we can just roll.
One clarification thing I wanted to add was we received a letter from a local government official on the bids from certain managers. To be clear, we did not ask for bids for construction. That was not anything that was requested in the initial RFP. The only number that was requested was the construction manager services. So any comment that was made that, you know, one was less than the other on construction costs, that's just not accurate because there was no bid for those things. So I just wanted the commissioners to be clear on that.
Especially no bid for someone who hadn't seen the plans and or toured the jail to see what they were working with, so.
I just wanted it to be clear that that's not anything that we asked for.
Yep.
Also, if I may, to see what is usable and what isn't down there. And nobody even had seen that of those companies that showed up here, so to be able to make a determination until they see it.
Thank you. The boards will stand at recess for 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, board, we will come back in session. We have with us this morning Clark for a second interview. We appreciate you guys all coming back with the team. Thank you. And appreciate the time you guys invested to go through and do a tour with the jail with us last week. Just so you could see what a beautiful facility it is. And you're probably wondering why we would ever want to change it. I know, so. But anyways, we will let you start out. If you want to kick off and go through with anything as far as your company and/or anything you've learned from the tour that you'd like to share with the board.
On behalf of Clark, and the last time I was here, I mean, you guys had a heck of a long day, right? 6 of these, a brutal day to go through, but I do applaud the process that you brought together. I think you're doing the right things in selection and how you're going about this. So obviously, to your point, we walked in jail a week ago, and we prepared some more information we put in front of you. I'm gonna let my team go through all of that information. But maybe before we do that, before I hand that to Chad, I'd like to just maybe let everybody just reintroduce who they
Sure.
are, what their roles are, if that's okay with you, and then we'll jump right in. Just for us, the more interactive these are, the better. If you've got questions, if we're going through this information, please ask them. And we have plenty of time for Q&A when we're all done here. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and let you, Eric, just introduce yourself and what you will.
Yeah, good morning. Eric Troney, Senior Project Manager with Clark. My name is Bill Cox, Senior Estimator with Clark.
Chad Thalen, Market Leader, Senior Project Manager, and I lead our municipal sector.
Jennifer Hubel, Bond Campaign Manager.
Jeff Melvin, Site Superintendent for Clark Construction.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do is we obviously had the tour and we've learned a few things, and at the end of it, kind of some of the bigger things like obviously the bond and the estimating and more important things. We tried to put some additional information together to get out to you. We're not going to read to you the whole book. We just thought we'd have this as a lead behind if you had more questions. So wanted to go through that. Before that, little housekeeping, there was a question last time that I did not have the answer to, was about how many new jails we've done and how many renovations. So I went back in the database and we've done 14 new correctional facilities in the state of Michigan. We've done 16 additions and renovations. And that's corrections as a whole, 4 brand new county jails, and then 10 jail renovations at the county level. So, as you know, the toughest part of this project might end up being getting the bond passed, and especially in a rural community, we understand how challenging that is. And unfortunately, I haven't had a great track record. The state of Michigan hasn't done a good job of getting those passed. So a big focus of our presentation and what we put together is the bond campaign information. So I'm gonna have Jen walk through that. And then Bill's gonna walk through kind of how we cost things, what we've looked at so far, and then we'll kind of wrap up from there, so.
One of the things that you had asked for was more information on what is provided for bond campaigns. And so in the back of this book, there's a lot of examples of communications that we've provided, graphics that we've provided, and then also some examples of some video. I think video is a great storyteller, especially over social media or amongst community groups. And I think one of your biggest challenges is going to be able to build that transparency and build that trust. And that is some of the ways that we can show the actual need. If people can see the need and they understand it, that is going to be half your battle. And so we are here to help provide the tools in order to tell that story. And so that is something that we can help provide amongst all of the other marketing collateral that the county would potentially need in order to tell that story. So there are some examples in here that we have provided. If you flip over on the following pages, now we're going into page 3 and page 4. It just gives a little detail. You know, we've done over $2 billion in bond campaigns. And so we really have that experience in the last 10 years. And then we also have some references in here of clients that we have recently worked with and can to attest to our work and what we provided for them. And then projects that are similar to yours as well in terms of scale. And I think some of the really important things are those repeat clients. People come back to us time after time because they know the support that we can provide and how we can help communicate to their communities. So there's some information in there for you in case you want to contact. Are we walking through these timelines? Yeah, okay.
So basically, I just had Jen put together, next year's bond, what the typical bond timing would be, so May, August, and October, what that would look like. Each scenario, when you'd need the information, when we'd get involved more, and just kind of lay that out. So on the next, there's 3 pages of the overall schedules that just show what that would look like and where the engagement would be, just so you kind of understand the timing. And, I know this is 4 to 6 months away from having a number, so might be able to hit May, but, August or November obviously would be an easier target, so. But it kind of gives you a few pluses and minuses as well. On the top, it gives a little description of the pluses and minuses there. And then, as Jen said, the whole back of the book is just all additional materials that we put together, just samples of the many different things we do to communicate with the public. So with that, Bill, you want to, I wanted Bill to talk kind of about our philosophy and everything. And obviously, we've done a tour and we've had a couple days since the tour to think about how the tour went and cost and things like that. So I just had him do a little brainstorming with some high level pricing and thought process, just so you can understand how we go about it.
Yeah, so on page 8, kind of shows, as Chad mentioned, after our walkthrough, Jim sent some information over that he had worked on a couple different options. So we went back and we took a couple of our more recent projects that we did some benchmarking, just looked at some cost per square foot, for the new pod plus, and then to see what we could look at for renovation. So we broke down the 3 different bed options there, but really we just want to talk about the process. And so, I mean, this is kind of one step in the process. And then as soon as we're brought on board, obviously we go into much more depth with the numbers. This is kind of looking at the 10,000 foot view. As the process goes on, we really like to dive into the details. So I think Jim even mentioned it, there's going to be a lot of meetings, a lot of interaction. We want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. We're all moving kind of the same beat and really concentrating on the areas that are a priority for the team as a whole. So. And then on page 9, we have just some examples of tools that we use. So, we can use Matterport, or we have a 360 walkthrough. Really, this just digitalizes kind of what Jeff and the field team sees every day. This is really helpful, especially in the renovation areas. So typically what we like to do when we're doing a renovation or a heavy renovation like this, once all the demo's done, everything's stripped out, we'll go through and we'll take a picture of the entire building. Kind of serves as a benchmark so we know, where things are at. Almost as a live as-built of the facility. So if there's any questions down the line, you can go back and say, hey, before that wall was there, like what's behind that wall? And you can go back and actually look. It's like, oh, well, there's that main, or, that's where the electrical's fed from. And it really gives, it visualizes everything that's on the plans as the as-built that really you get to keep forever and can reference back to. So
Yeah, I think one of the biggest advantages to that is being in a secure facility. Every time we need to go look at something, verify something for the design team as they're going through design, you're taking some of your staff, got to get let through a bunch of doors, maybe move inmates around to look at it, and then go up maybe in a secured ceiling. Well, the nice part with this is we go up and do that once and document it all with a camera, so that we're not, every time there's a question, we don't have to go back in that area, go back in the ceiling, bother the staff. It just is a lot more efficient. And then we can send all these files right to the design team, so they have all that information and can use it as they move forward with design.
And then during construction too, it can be used, like typically we, on other projects, the stakeholders, if they want to see updates, see progress, instead of setting up a bunch of tours through an active construction site, you can either send out a link or show them pictures of the actual construction as it's being done, so.
Okay, and then I just want to touch on what it looks like when we get started. So mentioned, talking to Evan Marsh, it sounds like 4 to 6 months to get to a design development phase where we could do a final price before it goes out, before the whole bond is put together. So I looked at like the first 30 or so days, what does that look like for us? So as soon as Evan Marsh is released and we're released, getting together and really starting to not only take what we saw on the tour, but really start to overlay where the addition goes and what areas might be renovated into what and how that all ties together. So really starting to sit with them and really talk through that so we can see what makes sense from a cost standpoint. The next thing would be more of a target value design. So taking each area that you need, whether it be the Sally Port, the control room, the booking, the challenging spots, finding out what's the right square footage, putting some rough costs together. And then when we move into the next piece, the constructability, we've got all those buckets of money for each of those items. Now we kind of lay out each of those areas in the drawings and see what starts to make sense. And what we do from an operational standpoint, I think, is different than a lot of folks. Bill's working on the numbers of the hard construction costs, but our team is looking at, okay, if we tie in here, building a new facility might be 16 or 18 months, but if we got to do it in phases and we've got renovations after we move, maybe it's 24 months, maybe it's more than that. We don't know right now because we don't have enough information. But we start to look at what the schedule looks like. So, and can we use existing utilities for the rest of the project? Are they gonna hold up? Do we need to bring temporary utilities in during that? Do we need to bring any temporary security measures in, which, we know we will. What temporary wall relocations do we have to do? All that type of stuff. Our operations team is looking at that and putting together a logistics plan so that all the money, because that stuff all costs money, all of that is baked into Bill's final estimate. So that when we go to voters with that number, everything is in there and it's a complete package. It's not just a takeoff of the drawings and some unit cost. It's got full thought through the whole schedule in there. So that's kind of the constructability and scheduling piece. Then we come up with a schedule. What does this look like as a project? Is it 20 months? Whatever that might be, we get that through that process. Then we kind of we get towards the end of DD and we've got, we're doing value engineering the whole time, but obviously we hope we're at our target, but we have a value engineering process to not only make sure we're hitting that number, but look at some potential, program adds. If we can save costs and different things and be more effective and more efficient with the way we lay out the building, maybe we can bring some program back in that, wasn't one of those, the top 10 items that had to be done or whatever items have to be done. And then when we're going through this process, I think identifying issues that want to be talked about in the bond, like, the lack of view from the control room and the bottleneck of bookkeeping, starting to identify those items so that we can start to put a narrative together. And that's what needs to go out to the community. Here's why, here's the condition, here's why we need this bond passed, and here's all the information. So we start to pull that together. So we're building that bond program and what the information packet that would go out to the community would look like. So we're doing that through that process. So that's kind of what the first few weeks look like once we're on board with the design team. And then, at the end of 4 to 6 months, we've got a solid number and ready to go out to the public and get the bond passed.
Okay.
And with that, I think we hit a couple of the bigger ones, but we're obviously there's more questions, so we are here to answer them.
So on your tour, I know some of the faces were on the tour. What did you learn?
You're in the same situation as a lot of counties. I think there's a lot of solid pieces left of the jail. Obviously the Sally Port and structural issues there are areas that are gonna have to be demolished because it wouldn't be worth salvaging them. I think like the rec area and everything is in pretty good shape. The addition itself, I think is, I don't wanna say simple, but it's kind of nice. It's a green space other than some, bringing in some dirt to level it out. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So the biggest thing I learned is we need to jump in right away with Evan Marsh and see what they're thinking up here, on how they might actually repurpose all the areas in the building. But there's definitely a lot of potential there.
Yeah, when you saw the layout of the existing jail, did you have any ideas on where you'd put the new pod, intake, and Sally?
Well, we looked at coming off I guess it would be one of the medium securities. I'm trying to think what direction that is, but it shows in your study.
East side.
Yeah, the east side.
Yeah.
It seems to make a lot of sense because you can cut through that one pod and renovate that, those areas that are in fairly decent shape and have that be the new connector. I think what's on the drawings makes sense, and it's the easiest from a site perspective. The cost wise, I think it's the easiest.
Yeah, and this is my perspective, but the simple part is when you're building a brand-new pod and an intake, that you guys have done that before. It's just, how does that connect to the existing building? The more difficult part is you got to do that with prisoners potentially. Now, it's possible we could move them out of state, or out of county, but some of them would like to go out of state, I'm sure, get a little vacation. And then the phase of the renovations, which is more challenging because there'll probably be some demolition involved in there, as well as some refurbishing, repurposing, some space in there. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on that?
Well, the renovations are challenging, especially in a correctional facility, because everything is built, obviously, not to be compromised. So it's heavy concrete masonry renovations. So that is definitely one of the bigger concerns. I think one of the keys, though, in trying not to have to move your inmates around, is working early with the MDOC and what they're gonna allow us to do, because
Okay.
that's gonna have a whole bunch of, they're gonna have a whole bunch of input on, do we need to move everybody out, or, I mean, in the past, we've been able to isolate areas. They've let us do all the construction with like a 3-hour wall in between, and then when we get close to finally tying it in, then we have a second phase plan that shows how, how they would travel back and forth, and it might be a temporary corridor until the new construction is fully tied in. And then the utilities will definitely, getting a survey on what condition all the HVAC and the plumbing and all that is in. If we tear out the Sally Port, all that basement's got all kinds of utilities in it that have to be really relocated. So those are, the pod is pretty easy when you compare it to everything else. But I think getting an early assessment of all the utilities and as-built and understanding that is going to be one of the biggest challenges.
Okay. I'll have some questions on the millage campaign in a bit, but Commissioner Bassett, would you like to lead?
Oh, well, I was gonna ask about the campaign. Most of the materials in here, I think all of it was schools. So how do you tailor it? How have you tailored it in the past successfully with jails?
That's a good question. So honestly, like the differences between, say, any type of municipal campaign and a jail campaign, it's really no difference. I mean, you're really just wanting to be transparent and building trust that the need is there. Especially for jail campaigns, you really have to show the visuals of why it is needed. And that's whether it's a school or a city hall. You have to show the need to the community, and they have to understand. And obviously with the jail, there's definitely an economic impact as well. So you want to be able to tell that story. There's people's jobs that rely on this jail. So if anything, having that economic impact attached to it makes it an even easier sell. So I think that it's just telling the story of the need, the transparency, building the trust with the community ahead of time, and really making sure that the community understands all the details included. There's really no difference there. So it's just every community is different. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Carlton?
I do think it's a tougher sell, because I look at this stuff and it's for kids. We passed our senior millage for seniors, and in this case, I'm not sure what to say, but I'm just going to put that out there. But, okay, were you saying you've built 4 county jails? Sorry, that's my glucose monitor. It's not a phone call. Okay. How many jails have you built from the ground up?
From the ground up, 4 county jails.
4 county jails.
Yes, 14 correctional facilities. We've done a lot of state work as well, federal, state prison work. So we've got a ton more corrections resume than just the jails.
Okay.
But it's 4 new jails.
That's what I thought you said. 17,000 beds you've either built or rehabilitated or added or?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Getty?
So of the facilities that you've worked on, obviously there's a lot. When you're working on a facility that it's a remodel or renovation, and we have that security of taking care of inmates that are existing, have you ever moved those to a neighboring, or the county or the whatever facility is? I'm looking at couldn't we save some time, energy, costs and trying to work around and keep inmates housed, could we move them off-site, you know, rent some beds in a neighboring facility, get the job done faster and at a lower cost? Have you worked on any projects like that?
Of the ones I have personally worked on, we haven't. They've kept them in their existing facility or we've worked around it. It would definitely be more, it'd be more cost effective on the construction end to do what you're saying. Obviously, I know there's a cost to
Right.
farming them out.
And faster too. You
Yeah.
eliminate
Right.
freezing. There's an economic side to both sides of that as well, that you have to evaluate too, because there's a cost to do that as well. But anytime you can go in and take the whole facility, it's gonna get done quicker and more cost effectively. That's just, anytime you have to phase, that costs money because it costs time. So,
How about work release? We can use some of our prisoners to actually help and, that'll reduce cost. So,
Hey, we are open to all kinds of ideas.
there you go. Commissioner Getty, are you done?
Yeah, I had the same question about the campaign. But, you know, I look at the Owasso school and I think that's a very similar campaign. Yes, you're focused on kids and students in service, but you really focused on the why, you know, and the school bus sitting in a flooded parking lot. And I mean, we have lots of those opportunities to focus on the safety and security of our staff and the risks that we have with our current facility. So I think while there's not a campaign that directly focuses on a jail in the recent past, it's that same sort of angle and transparency. And, you know, we're not building a Taj Mahal for people who've behaved poorly and broken the law. We're building a facility because we need to keep our staff safe and secure and protect the county for risk.
Yeah, you're definitely doing the right thing by bringing whoever you bring on board, bringing a CM on board that has this experience, because what we found, I can only think of a couple bonds in the last 5 years that have even passed, and those were passed before they brought a CM on board. But there's a very high failure rate, and I just think you need that extra, you need somebody in your corner that's putting all this together and helping you run the successful campaign. So, but that's why we don't have a lot of recent data, because there just hasn't been, they've been going out for bond before they bring the CM on board.
Right. And then just one other follow-up question is, you know, I want to make sure that we're thinking outside the box. So yes, we've, you know, thought of some of these things, but we would depend on some, you know, whoever we choose to be able to bring some things that maybe we haven't thought about and through the design phase, you know, whether it's, you know, relocating our inmate population for a short period of time so, you know, we can do that, or are there other options? You know, that's what I want to see from the candidate, is to bring those out of the, you know, out of the box thinking of how we can save some money, because obviously we're on a budget.
Sure.
Commissioner Smoker.
Back to the millage part, when I toured down at Coldwater, I believe that's Branch County, were you involved in that?
I personally was not involved in the campaign. We were not brought in before the campaigns.
Okay. I had a conversation with the sheriff, and he pretty well mentioned that the millage was the toughest part of the jail.
Yeah, it took them a couple tries.
That's all I got.
Okay. Commissioner Hatfield?
I agree with what you've heard from the others about the campaigns. I mean, I think that your creative work on the school campaigns is wonderful. And while in terms of pushing credibility, I think it's important, very important for us to be able to do that. But I also was hoping to see some really creative messaging as to how we can actually convey the concerns for staff security and things, because we're going to have to hit those points hard. And I think it's going to be important, actually, both on the campaign side as well as on the design side, that we're engaged in the conversations. And so, I'd be interested in a little input on that, as, you know, you're working with Albemarle on the design and stuff. How do we, stay a part of that process and have a chance to also, insert some of our thinking?
Yeah, so we would, I mean, the initial meetings, when we were really starting to talk about big picture design, that we would request a group of the stakeholders, so maybe there's a small group of commissioners, maybe it's everyone, but the sheriff, someone from the jail, we would have those all in that group as we start talking through this stuff, and have regular stakeholder meetings when we're first starting the design process, so that everyone's ideas are heard, but we're also working directly with the people that know what all the challenges have been over the last few years, you know, and what it's like to operate in there right now. So there would always be some type of place for that with the stakeholder meetings. I think it's critical to have owner feedback as we go through the design, so we don't get too far along and then somebody said, well, why don't we do it this way? And so your voice would be heard early. And that's a lot of these things. We come up with ideas in those meetings and say, well, what if we did this? And we give Bill a couple days to go and crunch a few numbers and said, well, it's gonna cost this much, or maybe it's a savings, or, so that's really where us having, 18 in-house pre-con people, to focus on this will be helpful, because we can turn estimates around very quickly.
You have to build the story, right? You have to. And, build the story revolves around all of you, much as it does anything else, right? And it's what you know about your community, what you know are gonna be the hot buttons, what you know, so that first day, the first meeting, we get all that out on the table, and you use that to build what Jen is gonna put. And then the messaging comes in, and then there's a bunch of other meetings after that for us to go through all that information with you, to make sure what we're putting out, what you're putting out to the community is the right message. It is a little different than a school, hands down. When you can talk about kids, it's one thing. This is a different message, right? And it's gotta hit about safety, employees, and the product and what you're trying to deliver here. So it is different. The way we approach it is the same. The process is the same. The messaging is different. So.
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Additional questions? Commissioner Campbell.
Well, I'm just a copycat here today, so, we just addressed here, the school versus jail. Yeah, it is a totally different campaign, but it doesn't make it any less necessary. It is a much needed thing, not only for our safety of our employees. We think about a jail, and the first thing that pops up into our mind is murderers and rapists, but quite often, unfortunately, some of our neighbors end up there and all that. So it's not all murderers and rapists that go to jail. Sometimes it's just unfortunate situations. But safety of our employees, getting the message through to our community, which I believe, I don't believe there's a better county. I don't believe there's a better community in the state of Michigan. And none of us want to pay more money. None of us want to spend more money. But we all want that ambulance to be there when our dad is in desperate need. We all want to have our police officers and safety persons safe and protected as they're protecting us every single day. So if this group ends up with this contract, I'm very confident that they have the ability to help us in this process. And we also have the county and the community to get this job done. So thank you for being here today.
Commissioner Tunison.
I appreciate walking through the jail with you guys. You guys looked like you did a really thorough job of looking to see what was there. But there's a practicality side of this whole thing, right? I mean, how much can we utilize out of that jail? And I think if we tell the public the fact that we're trying to do our due diligence to be very practical in that manner as far as utilizing what we can there, but if it's going to be not cost effective, that we would need somebody to tell us flat out, right? Okay, but what's behind that wall, you guys are opening up a can of worms, okay, that you're not going to be able to afford. So, I mean, that's where it comes in the guidance that we have to trust that you guys could help us get through that process, but also the fact that we're selling it to the public, that we're doing everything we can to cut costs within reason, right? But to be really practical on what we have there that's, we can use now. So, and I think you guys are, you're that, you know, you guys have been through this enough to where you can tell us that's not gonna work or it will work. You know, and that's where it comes down to trust and working together, right? So, thank you.
Okay. Let's talk about the process. Looking at the timeline, if we were gonna do a millage campaign in August, you're talking about engagement starting in March or April on the timeline? And you had mentioned building the story, and like I said, a lot of the things in here were about schools, which is fantastic. But everybody's got kids and grandkids in schools, and you can rally support for them. Hopefully, we're not all cheering for our neighbors to be in jail. So, you know, it's a different group heading in that direction. So we know there's a strong mental health component. You know, as our sheriff has said, that everybody in there has probably got a little bit of an issue that needs to be addressed. There's a lot of things that we have to think through when we're building the messaging and educating our constituents on why this is an important project. So let's talk about that process of how we build the story. I mean, how do you take something like a jail, which nobody hopes to ever see the inside of, especially the current one, and how do we educate the public on that? Is there video walkthroughs? What are we gonna do to start that process and get the education out there and inform people on the current condition versus what we're working to do on there?
Yep, so as a part of our process, obviously, we have the pre-lead, we have the facility and program needs that our team works on. And then we get into community engagement and surveying. That's where we're actually reaching out to the community, asking them directly questions. Would you support this? Would you support that? Would you not support this? And to try to get a gauge of like what they will actually support. And then that kind of leads it into like, okay, we know that we can direct, we can, you know, put this ask on the ballot. And at least it's gonna garner at least 50% support from the community. So
How do
we wanna
you
start
get that
with-
community engagement? How do you get that information coming back from the community?
Yeah, so that would include meetings like this, public meetings. We could send out postcards if you wanted through the community. It depends on how your community communicates. If you wanted to do it through social media, we can do it through social media. We can do a postcard campaign. We can do a flyer campaign. Public meetings such as this, several public meetings. We want to make sure that we get as much buy-in as possible ahead of time before it even hits the ballot. So we like to do those surveys and community focus groups to make sure that, you know, we're hitting the target and that we're at least going to garner some support. And from there, we get those stories from the public. We get them the stories about the project. And then we move into a video shoot campaign. That's where we kind of do our campaign pre-work there, where we'll go and we'll shoot the facilities and making sure that we're capturing the story. We're getting all of the messaging correct. We have our team that comes in, they produce the videos, and then we'll produce several videos that can be released via social media. So we want to make sure that what is said during the public engagement is like we're hitting those correct targets, and that's how we get that information. So, and it comes from all of you in this room. It comes from your community. It comes from the folks that work in the facility. We want to work with those people and making sure they're telling their story. We want to make sure everybody's voice is heard, and then that way we're getting the correct information out to the public.
Okay, are those videos that you're talking about, are those going to be available at these community information sessions where we're pulling information? Is that going to be something you're going to show people at that point?
We could do some pre-work where we are filming the inside of the facilities and then showing that to people. And then from there, we can produce that into a more of a marketing type reel where we're communicating messages.
Yeah, because, I mean, and I've learned a ton about this in the last couple of years, but Michigan Department of Corrections has their own standards.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand how non-compliant our jail is right now with direct visual supervision, you know, intake or Sally Port stuff. I mean, there's so many things wrong with the current facility. It's so outdated that I'm actually surprised it hasn't been shut down. But if there had been a lawsuit or an accident or something, maybe it would have been. So, but although I've learned this stuff, it's hard to convey this, right? And because it's not a school, everybody knows there's a gym and a cafeteria and classrooms and happy teachers. It's a whole different animal. So we have to literally look at this and it's not selling incarceration, it's really rehabilitation. How do we create a safer community? How do we use this building to bring people who are going back into our community into a better place and a safer place for all of us? So, I mean, there's a story to be told here that's got to be weaved in here. So I'm just curious about how we build that story so it connects and it makes sense and it educates people, because constituents hate the thought when we say we're going to sell them on this. The jail will sell itself if they did a tour of like, I never want to be in there. But how do we build that story that makes sense when we're asking for that campaign money, that millage money?
Yeah, I think you hit it. Yeah, getting the millage approved is phase 2. Creating understanding and creating awareness is phase 1.
Correct.
And you can't go out and ask them what they'd support, because right now they don't have a clue.
Correct.
Yeah, and, so
The visual is everything. The visual is everything in trying to get through this process with the jail. It is different. People they're not in it.
Right.
They don't see it. They don't have a visual of it. They don't know what the problems are. They don't know any of that. And we have to find a way of showing them in the right way why we want to do what we want to do.
Yeah, it doesn't affect their lives at all.
Yeah, but I think everybody, we might not all have kids in school. I mean, we all have kids in school. We don't have neighbors that have been incarcerated, but I think we all know officers. And, whether they're on the street or, as a correction officer, we all know them. And we can relate to that. So I think that's the story. Not a beautiful picture of a new pod.
And they have to have a place that they want to go to work. Okay, because they don't.
You
right
gotta have
now,
a place where they're safe.
Yeah, and right now, you go down there to that dungeon, trust me, it'd be depressing. And I might be overstating that, but I think it would be to me, walking in that place, trying to pull on those doors, half of them don't work right. There's all kinds of things down there. The redundancy of getting through the doors alone to go from one area to the next, I mean, that was like a jungle down there.
And you referred to, early on in the process, asking them what they'd support. I don't think that we have the luxury of doing that, because we're almost having to define what is the minimum that we can do that will satisfy state requirements and, in our minds, keep our people safe. We need to educate the community as to why we're proposing what we're proposing. It's not like a school where you're asking them if they want to do the football field or the baseball diamond or the roof or the lockers or desks or, whatever. Hopefully by the time we take this to the public, we've designed something that really is bare minimum to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And then selling that.
Yeah.
Or showing them why that. Yeah, I don't like the word selling either. That sounds like you're trying to put something over on them. And we're not. We just want them to understand how desperate the situation is and how hard we've all worked. You, Albemarle, us, and, our committees, to really reduce this to as affordable a project as we can make it and still accomplish the minimum requirements.
When did you guys get involved with Branch County, with that facility down there? They didn't hire a construction manager in advance. So you're saying that they did not use your services to promote a bond or do any of the pre-work as far as helping create the picture for the community?
Correct.
Is that correct? Because I know that failed twice
I think it was twice.
before they got it through the third time.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I know part of what got it over the hump was videos and sheriff talking at a million speaking engagements and really being out there. But the video showing the existing jail, I know, went a long way from the feedback that we've got.
Okay.
That was kind of the difference between the first two attempts.
So you guys didn't lead a campaign at all in there? Okay. Tell me about community organizations or pro-jail organizations. When does that come into play? When do we set up a committee to help get the message out?
As soon as possible, even before we get to community engagement and surveying. If we can get an advocacy group together and get them in early, the better. I like to go as early as possible.
Are you working with that advocacy? Words are hard some days. But, yeah. Advocacy group. So, are you working with them and getting them
Oh, yeah.
on track?
Yep.
Providing
so
materials?
A part of our services is to work with the advocacy groups as well to make sure that they have a strategy, they have a ground game, they have a social media game, they have all the materials that they need in order to communicate as well. So that is the other side of the coin. And the advantage of having a strong advocacy lead is that obviously you're going to be able to tell a much better story, and it's going to be much more clear about the need, because the county is obviously limited in what they can say legally, whereas an advocacy committee is able to really tell the emotional side of the story. So we like to support on both ends.
And you said are you going to lead that group and help them out?
Yep. we
Or are
have-
they responsible for the messaging on social media and mailings and stuff like that? Or are you doing this with them or for them?
Yep, so I initially help lead them. I give them the strategy, the guidebook, everything that they need, all the tools that they need, and we help and we support them through marketing and graphic design or whatever they need, whatever the support they need. But ultimately, it will be led by somebody within the community. Obviously, I can't be the chair of that committee legally. But yes, we will help and support those chairs, co-chairs, treasurers, whatever they need in order, all the tools that they need.
Well, they won't know what they need either.
No, they won't.
Because no one's ever done this before. So,
Right.
I mean, this is something that is kind of a new experience. So that's the key thing, is what kind of help is available. Because, social media programs for a jail, when you're not quite sure what's going on, there's just a lot of question marks out there. And you can't afford to screw it up. It's got to be unified messaging from leadership, top to bottom. And like I said, a lot of speaking engagements and stuff as well. But commissioners, other questions? Obviously very qualified, great resume.
I had one other question.
Yes.
Sorry. I loved the timeline, and there's some big differences when we look at when we would go for the millage. The big one that stuck out to me is that if we shift to November, we have significantly more time for that facility and program needs assessment. And at the other end of the spectrum, we're at 3 months if we try to go in May, which really compresses that timeline. With your experience, what's the advantages and disadvantages we have with the timeline, May, August, or November?
Well, I would say from my perspective, May makes it really tough because it's a tough renovation and there's a lot of work to do to get to a final program and a final project. So I think May is a stretch. August, you can focus the election on the jail and not have it part of the general election where a lot of folks might show up that don't know anything about it and may vote no just because they haven't heard of it. So August definitely has some advantages there. I would say there's cost to do special elections as well that you'd have to weigh that as well. But I would think August is a safer time frame than May. We can certainly get it done in May, but I think having a little more time to get the message out there, especially the first time out there, I think would be ideal.
Okay.
It's more expensive to do it twice.
Yes, you're correct.
Yes. Well, I'll give you the floor if you have any closing comments, ideas, if you have any thoughts on your tour of the jail, anything that stood out to you guys renovation-wise, anything you'd like to end this interview with, we'd love to hear you.
Okay. Well, I don't really have anything specific like that. I think our team's excited about it. I think we'd love to get going on it right away. We got a long history with Avonmarsh and would love to work with them on another project and work for another county. So we really appreciate the time and let us know if you need any follow-up after this.
You can guarantee you can hit our budget number?
Depends on the scope.
Good boy.
That's the engineer.
He's not our salesman.
That's right, exactly. Give it to the salesperson to answer that question, right? Of course we can. Thank you for coming back this morning, and thank you for investing the time in Berry County and our jail and doing this. Your insight's been very helpful to us, and I really appreciate you putting together this brochure and some of the expansive work you've done. Very impressive stuff, so.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Board, we're going to take another 5-minute recess. the board will come back in session. Commissioner Colton will be joining us shortly.
Okay.
So for our second interview, we have Granger with us. Again, we thank you for your time again. Good interview first time through. That's why you're here. Got a chance to walk through our beautiful jail. And I know you're wondering why we even want to change it, but still, that's why you're here, to give us a little bit of insight and advice. So if you would like to start out by basically, if you want to give us any information on your company, on the process, on what you saw with the jail tour, like that, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And we do have a presentation we'd like to run through, but we're hoping to keep this conversational. And is it okay to start by just reintroducing our
Yes.
team members?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm John Bohr. I'm the Director of Pre-Construction Services.
My name is Todd Butler. I will be the project director.
I'm Sean Rousseau. I'm Site Superintendent.
Bailey Bullock, Project Manager.
Hannah Pierre Herendeen, Marketing and Communications.
Thank you.
We can go to the next slide, please. So last time we were here, we left you with the 4 things that we think are differentiators that, set Granger apart, and make us the best, construction manager for this project. And the first of those was experience delivering, similar types of facilities. And that's not just at the corporate level, that's each of the individuals on the team that's been selected here, because this project isn't gonna be built from an office. It's gonna be built by the guys that are actually boots on the ground, and everybody on our team has experience delivering similar facilities. The budget alignment and accuracy, and the bond passage expertise is gonna be a lot of what we're going to go over in our presentation. So we hope that resonates. And then again, it's the commitment to the community. Bailey's a resident of Berry County. Our project engineer, who will round out our staff, will be a resident of Berry County. And that responsibility to the community doesn't stop when they vote yes on this project. It's keeping them informed throughout. So if we can go to the next slide. Commissioner Hatfield, at our last interview, you asked, how confident are you that you can build this project for the budget? And I said 100%. So we wanted to go back and prove that to ourselves, and then prove that to you of what this project could look like. So the RFP says that you have a top end budget, a budget ceiling of $35 million. These projects, typically 15% of the overall budget is going to be allocated to owner soft costs, and that's design fees, that's furniture, fixture, and equipment, that's utility fees, a lot of all that stuff that lives outside of our contract. So we know coming into this, we have a maximum of $30 million to fit construction into. From there, the RFP said we want to get at least 72 beds. So then the other statistics, if we can go to the next slide, I'll come back to those. John, do you wanna?
Yeah, so in our last interview, we had went through the square foot per bed, what's an efficient building, and your RFP, we were about 563 square foot per bed, and we benchmarked that against these other projects. You can see it's kind of far to the right. And the goal range from the projects that we've seen, and most architects will tell you, is that 350 to 400 square feet per bed. And so as we're trying to right size or right fit potentially what Berry County could be, we thought 450 square foot per bed is a conservative number. It's kind of in line with some of those other benchmarks you see. So if you don't mind going to the next slide.
What does Department of Corrections recommend?
They don't have a requirement as a overall building size per square foot. They do have requirements in day room and cell spaces as a square foot per occupant, but it does not apply to the entire facility. So we're trying to look at these 4 comparable projects that were all new sheriff's office and jail facilities, and trying to create trends, which is what we can do when we're talking theoretical benchmark data. So we're saying, hey, of these 4 jails and sheriff's offices that were built, what correlations can we make? And there really is a very strong correlation in an overall facility square foot per bed. So that's what we're looking at there so we picked 450 as being a conservative number. It's on the high end. We've only done 1 jail and sheriff's office that has a less dense square foot per bed. Does that answer your question, sir?
Mm-hmm.
So when you apply the 450 square foot per bed, the target gross square footage for your facility at 72 total beds would be around 32,400 square feet that we're looking at. So we'll go to the next slide, please.
So we toured the existing facility last week, and you started by asking what did we see, and what we saw is several things. We saw a booking area that's very small, very inefficient, only one holding cell with direct line of sight. We saw housing areas that were in separate parts of the building, which results in staff inefficiencies, inability to have line of sight on many of the inmates. We saw linear style housing. We saw some modular style housing. We saw an inability to address mental health issues. You know, there's your direct supervision cells are 3 cells in part of a larger day room with the inability to really separate those classifications as needed. An inability to step those inmates back into housing. We saw antiquated building controls. You know, there's still analog door push buttons. There's only a handful of doors in the facility that are controlled through central control. We saw central control that had 3 people essentially sitting on each other's laps trying to do their job. We saw failing infrastructure. We saw, you know, especially in the basement, there's wood columns holding up the structure of your current facility. We saw areas where there's cast in place concrete cells with MEP utilities encased in those. Makes them hard to renovate. It makes it hard to improve. We saw leaky pipes. But what else we saw is we saw a staff that's passionate about their job. We saw staff that is making do with what they've got, despite the challenges. And you know, there's a need to address the facility, but the staff seems to what we saw is they know what they're doing and they're passionate about their jobs. So when we walked through trying to identify areas that were suitable for renovation. If you can recall in our last interview, we had 2 bar charts. The one we just showed you, which is we were at the high end of the building density side, but we're at the extreme low end of the cost bar graph. And we talked about needing to bring those together. And one of the ways we were going to do that was look for areas of renovation. So what we saw was that the area that has the basement with structural issues and the leaking pipes and the antiquated MEP infrastructure is probably not the best candidate for renovation. So that's that north part of the existing jail. The center part where we have the cast in place concrete cells with utilities encased in concrete, those are really hard to renovate and make those cost efficient renovation areas. And then the south part is the existing 3 housing pods with the 29 cells, I think. Possibly for renovation, but the challenge becomes how do you create a new housing pod in that existing housing pod? And then the question becomes what's the upfront cost versus the long-term staffing cost to staff 2 different housing pods. Well, maybe there's a cost per square foot for renovation now. What happens when you have 2 or 3 FTEs that have to staff 2 separate housing pods over the long term, the next 50 years of this facility? So what we honed in on is about 5,600 square feet, which consists of the 1997 renovation or addition area, and the area in red, and then the multi-purpose room as being the 2 areas in that building that are the most suitable for renovation.
Yeah, so the 33,000 current square footage that you have, about 5,600 square feet is what we think we would save and renovate, which means we'd probably demo almost just over 27,000 square feet. So we put some rough benchmark costs to renovating the existing square footage, about $550 a square foot. We would now assume that could be part of your sheriff's office program space, and then demoing the existing 27,000. So about $3.5 million to renovate and demo that portion of the building. If you don't mind going to the next slide.
So again, if we started by saying, hey, a right-sized jail and sheriff's office facility for Berry County should be in that 32,400 square foot range. We say 5,600 of that is going to be renovation. The rest is the 26,786. So again, in trying to prove to ourselves that this project works, we tried to create a kind of a diagram to show how this would fit on the site rather, and create square foot buckets based on the program and the preliminary drawings that Evan Marsh has already done to try to identify what are those space buckets and what are the cost buckets that go along with those. So, so that red part we talked about renovating, we think it's probably the best use to use that as sheriff's office renovation space. And we'll talk about the phasing and why that is here in a minute. But we think that 14 square feet is sheriff's office renovation. Based on the program, there's still a need for another 5,800 square feet of sheriff's office. So that would be sheriff's office addition, which is in green. And then intake support, space, there's about 9,000 square feet, that's represented in blue. And then the housing pod, program spaces is in orange to the south. And again, these are based on Avonmarsh's preliminary, floor plans.
Yeah, so then, again, just roughly putting some rough cost per square foot based off the benchmarks of other similar facilities that we've done. Kind of went through and put that cost. So for those 3 additions, you're probably looking about $23.5 million for that. Next slide, please.
And then, the next thing we saw when we were, touring the site is, you know, some site elements that are going to have cost implications that need to be captured as well. Given the preliminary layout, which again goes in line with what Avonmarsh has already talked about, just joining it up so to capture that renovation space. There's a bit of some site grading that needs to take place. There's a low spot in the southeast corner of the site, but there's a high spot up in the northeast side. So there's some earth moving that needs to take place to level out the building pad and the site. We saw that the existing pavement is in rough shape. It needs to be redone. There's crackings, falling, potholes in the existing drive. So there's obviously some existing paving work that needs to be done. New paving, we saw that there are patrol vehicles that are parked in the grass. There's not enough space on the site to capture, you know, marine and road patrol parking needs. So obviously, some new parking is going to be needed. For the purpose of this exercise, we said, hey, let's just assume we need to run all new utilities to the addition that would have to come from the road and assign a premium for that. Again, just trying to be conservative. And then obviously security fencing for areas like outdoor rec, separate public from secure areas, is going to have a cost. So we said we think the site cost is about $2.8 million. It also needs to be included. Next slide, please.
So just in summary, again, I see only a $35 million project budget, which is 30 million construction. For 72 beds, if we assume that 450 square foot per bed, looking at about 32,400 square foot building to fit what you need. And so as we kind of look at this is almost like a target value delivery method. We're trying to put money in different buckets to right fit what 30 million can afford. Based off what we went through, we had about 32,415 square feet, so right there. And we're just under that $30 million threshold. So again, this is us in a silo with our knowledge and our expertise coming up with what we think could fit your program. But we're gonna need to talk with you folks. We're gonna need to sit down with Avonmarsh and really vet this through a little bit more to make sure that this is, or our assumptions are correct and it is possible. So if we were selected, you know, the next 30 days, it's starting to set up those meetings. It's getting sitting with them, sitting with a few of your folks and just making sure that we're thinking of this correctly. It'll probably change a little bit, but we're starting to set the guide rails of this is what we need to do to meet the budget that the county has.
So along with creating the space buckets and the budget buckets, that's only part of the equation, right? Because this plan doesn't work if the phasing doesn't work, or we end up having to absorb a huge amount of cost to house inmates in other counties, you know, or if it's inefficient to move staff and inmates into the new facility. So if we go to the next slide, we tried to further expand on what could this look like and how does this work from a phasing and logistics standpoint when we're working on site. And so to answer those questions and walk through our process, Bailey and Sean will talk through that part.
Thank you, Todd.
Go ahead, Sean. Good morning. I'm gonna cover 2 different things. What we see here for the job site as far as, I'm sorry, the sun was in my eyes. As far as the phasings go, I'm gonna be discussing phasing and also site challenges. As you can see on the left infographic there, we have the orange, the blue, and the green sections of the building. I'm going to be referring to those as the new addition portion. The red in the middle, again, is the sheriff's office portion to be renovated, and the yellow on the left is going to be the area of demolition that we have planned. First thing, phase 1 is going to be building the addition. We want to get the addition built. That includes the kitchen, intake, sally port, all the back of house operations necessary for the jail. We want to get that built and constructed while the existing facility is still operating. This is going to allow us to keep all of the inmates here at Berry County. As we know, setting them off is going to be very expensive. So we want to get that first portion built. The second portion of construction is going to be the renovation of the existing building. Again, the 1997 addition. We've got 5,600 square feet, For that addition, for that renovation, it's going to be very critical that we have a clear line of delineation between the active jail and the new jail. Concurrent with MDOC requirements, it's going to be very important to have that secure corridor and that secure barrier set up. We also have, this is also going to allow the use of both the new and the existing sheriff's office portion once we get this completed. That's going to aid in transition for the sheriff's office staff. And also the HVAC and site utilities are going to be fed off of the new addition for the renovation portion of it. That is going to allow utilities to be relatively unimpeded when we go for the existing functions and the new functions. Finally, phase 3 is going to be demolition of the yellow portion. It's going to be 2,690 square feet, 27,690 square feet. There's also going to be additional site work prepared once that demolition is done. We're also going to demo utility feeds and asbestos abatement, everything that's associated with that last phase of construction. So you can see we have redundant spaces on the west where the current functions are, and we plan to replicate that on the east. And as far as turnover goes, we're going to flip-flop those. It's going to be a move once phasing plan. We want staff and inmates to move once. We want to be very tactical when we do this. It's the most stressful time for a CO when you're moving inmates, trying to get them to a new facility, trying to get them settled. It's not something we really want to do. We definitely don't want to take them off site. We want to be able to transition them into the new section and also have those redundant back of house operations on each side. One thing with the site challenges, we've observed a few things touring your current facility. As Todd stated, we have an abundance of material on the north side of the site. We need to balance that out to the south so we can get our building pad established and get our temporary paving done. Public facing operations with dignified entries going out to the main stretch so we can clearly define and separate the transit, the active sheriff's office operations, and then also the construction operations that would be happening concurrently with both of those systems. Laydown area and access around site. We're working with a relatively large site, so we should have enough laydown area to be able to get everything around. And we're working close to neighbors. As you can see, we've got a neighborhood on the south side. We've got a Corewell Health building to the east. We really put a big emphasis on being good neighbors, cleanliness of site, keeping debris on site, picking up, I mean, we've all seen it with the plastic bags, mason bags just flying all over the place. That's something, we will be good neighbors. We are good neighbors. Evaluating working times as well. I'll hand it back over to Bailey.
Yeah. So I think Todd, John, and Sean covered a lot of the content really well, and so I'll be somewhat brief because Hannah's going to talk about bonding after this, which I think is a really critical component to all this. I'm sure there's a lot of questions about that. But talking about operations, so nobody understands the operations of a correctional facility better than the COs, the operating staff that's there. So I think that this is one of the places where the expertise and experience of your construction manager pays dividends. We talked about that a lot in our first interview. So understanding that, you want to have those pull through sally ports and maintenance bays because there's an operational advantage to that. The way that these pods are designed is to have one central control center. Even if you were to add onto the building, go to 120 beds off that southern wing there, you can still have that one control area, and then it creates staffing efficiencies, right? That's efficiency, right? Because that's how we save money. Some of the other things that, pay dividends in this experience when working with Avonmarsh is you have a central, intake area is central. You've got medical, the medical area, nurse's station, if you will, right there. If someone comes off the road, they're injured, someone who's been arrested, patrol officer, whatever it is, those resources are right there, right? That's something that we can work through and we can talk about and help with. When it comes to parking, there's nothing more important. It was one of the main complaints we heard, during our site tour was parking in Railroad Park. Completely understandable. You can kind of see in this conceptual thing that we've done off to the side here that there's kind of a ring road type of thing being built. There's nothing more important than quick entrance and egress in a law enforcement situation. The current parking, everything that's set up there now, it's not really for that. Todd talking about booking an intake. That's not set up well. There's safety issues that come with that. Some of the other things that we wanted to make sure that we covered today. I'll talk a little bit more about the opportunity for future expansion here, because we saw in a lot of the preliminary stuff that Adam March had sent, that there was this desire for an option for 120 beds or more in the future, maybe even another pod. You know, we can see that on there. There's, with this concept that we put together with the information that we have at this point, there's opportunities to expand east, there's opportunities to expand west for both sheriff's office and jailhouse. And so that's kind of unique. I think we actually have a really good site here. This is a good setup operationally for building, transitioning, keeping construction, keeping operations during that time, and then having a smooth transition. Now, last thing I want to talk about before I pass it off to Hannah is budget. So the square footage that we have here, the cost per square foot that we have here does allow for a more traditional building, right? A more traditional building structure, I should say. So that's brick, masonry, steel, precast for the jail area potentially. So there is room in that budget to build a more traditional. The obvious advantages there is longevity, quality, appearance, so on and so forth. There's obvious advantages to that. I know that we had talked about prefabricated metal building last time we were here, and the cost savings that come with that, and how we get our secure perimeter and so on and so forth. So that, you know, those opportunities are still there to build off what John said earlier. We'll continue to talk about. That's what the next steps are, right? How can we? You guys are still, you know, the county's still kind of on the higher end of the square footage per bed, you know. So there's opportunities there. That's a lot of the content that I want to cover. I did, you know, during our site tour, there was a comment made about practical community, right? If it's practical, it makes sense, then people can get behind it, right? I couldn't agree more, right? I mean, my friends, family, myself, my wife, my daughter, you know, this is our community, and practical, and I think that a practical message is something that can be done here. And so, to talk a little bit more about all that, I'm gonna let Hannah.
Thank you. If you can go to the next slide. Actually, two. We're going to talk about securing funding. So when we were here on the tour, we talked a little about lessons learned. So what we heard from 2020 was that there was, at the time, limited detail of the potential building and site plan the first time the bond went out for a passage. There was maybe still some confusion about funding sources, what was explored, why they were rejected. Maybe the true project cost wasn't fully formalized. There was also some desire for more citizen representation throughout the planning process, and just a broader uncertainty, turbulence at the time, just created more challenges. So looking at our approach for 2027, we really want to focus on clarity, transparency, and community involvement, like we talked about last time. So develop a clear project plan and the associated costs, which Jen and Tad talked about earlier. Explaining the funding sources, what options there are, what options there aren't, and the factors that have influenced the cost change from 2020 till now. Why is it different? You can establish multiple committees that have different stakeholder groups, create multiple opportunities for engagement, but also feedback, and maintaining a single source of truth that will keep people up to date with the facts. Next slide. So as we talked about before, we are suggesting in August 2027 vote based on when design will be done, so that we have a building and costs pointed to towards the end of March. That's when our campaign could launch. Some pre-planning in between there. We need that kind of 5 to 7 months to have the planning for the committees, and then a targeting August election. Open to feedback still on that, but that's what we think would be the most appropriate. Everybody in this room knows that safety can't wait. We know that taxpayers can be frustrated, that there's fatigue at the ballot box, but we're gonna pay for it somehow. So whether it's reactively paying for things or if it's strategically paying for things, and that's really the difference. So if we focus our message kind of on that this is our central responsibility, it's not an optional investment as our community has seen over the past decades. How are we going to deliver that message? It's not showing people fancy renderings. It's not pinpointing how many square feet or how many beds. It's addressing these questions. Is my family safe? Is the community safe? Are the corrections officers and the staff working in a safe environment? Are we being fiscally responsible? Are we building to the right size? What does repair look like for the existing building? How much does that cost in maintenance? Anything about like risk? What happens if we don't do this now? So those are kind of the questions that we want to hit on in our campaigns. So there's two different types of campaigns that we can help organize. The first is the informational campaign. So that's where we're really going to focus on transparent facts. We want people to understand the bond, the language that's presented to them, and what the project is really going to do. So we would use the county website for this information. You might have things on there like frequently asked questions that gives all the data in one spot. I would encourage the use of in-person and 360 virtual tours. I know Todd had sent over an example of a 360 we did for another jail. Those are going to be instrumental. Social media outreach, any other community forums or in-person meetings, all that information can live on the website. And then just voter education materials. So that's all from informational. If you switch over to the community-led, sorry, if you can go back. The advocacy side is more volunteer-led. This is where commissioners act in personal capacity. So your activities would include things like fundraising for campaign materials, social media outreach, business outreach, other community visibility efforts, yard signs, direct mail postcards, anything like that to reach people in an advocacy way.
How much money do they have to raise, in your opinion, for a countywide campaign?
That's a good question. Can I think about that
Sure.
and get back to you? I want to have up-to-date information, but I know you have a population of about 60,000 people, just mailings alone. That can add up. If you can go to that, thanks. So there's different ways that we're going to help with this advocacy outreach. Like you said, it's citizen-led, it's volunteer-led, but you know this community well. You know who are going to be ambassadors for you. You know who have a personal interest in getting this across the finish line. So those are going to be really your main targets to advocate for this to pass. They will recruit other community members. They volunteer. They set up a calendar of outreach where you're canvassing. They do the fundraising efforts. Maybe they have personal impact stories that they can share about the facility and what it means. But really, they're going to try to encourage voter participation in support of this bond, and they're going to answer community concerns, misconceptions, and point them down the right path of the correct information. So informationally, we are going to talk about some message development. Here are some key themes that we think are most suitable for this program. We are looking for safer and more effective working conditions for the staff. The long-term operational cost savings is going to be a large portion of that message. We want to have more resources and dedicated space for inmate rehabilitation, re-entry, mental health services. We want to address spaces for juveniles. We know that financially there's a public safety consequence of delaying action. What does that look like? You know, is money being spent on litigation or other settlements when we're out of compliance? You know, all those things add up to a larger picture of what we're currently spending as taxpayers and where is that money going and how can we be better fiscally responsible with the tax money. So a lot of that work is pre-happening in the January to March time period. That's where you would decide on content themes. You would have deliverables ready to go. You would create a calendar, and then you would decide which communication channels. Here's just a few stats about your community and where they kind of get their information. Go to next. So that puts April 2027 launch date for this informational type campaign. We want to ensure everybody has access to accurate messaging. Communication materials would be finalized and ready for deployment by beginning of April 2027. Any tours, forums, community engagement events would be scheduled for the next 6 months. The bond website on the county's website would have the bond information ready to go, FAQs, project details, timelines, and a feedback tool where people can solicit, send you their feedback directly. So here's just a recap of some of the timeline that we talked about. Ballot questions would be due to the clerk by the end of April. Ballot language certification would be April 11th, 4 p.m. Absentee voter ballots would be available June 24th. If you wanted to do optional early in-person voting, that would be 9 days prior to the election. targeting an election date of August 2nd. So that's it. I will look more into your questions specifically for a county of this size. But other than that, we are happy to work with you all and ready for questions.
Commissioner Bassett, start us out.
Well, I really did appreciate the detail that you went to in here, actually looking at what could possibly, I know it's gonna shift, right? But, I appreciate your expert, opinions on what could be renovated and how we could get there. And I appreciated, your attention to what we need to focus on in our campaign. I don't think I have any questions at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Carlton.
Approximately how many jail bonds have you worked on?
Not in a professional capacity as a ranger, but we have from an advocacy campaign.
When we have a correctional facility ballot initiative within our communities, we do take part in the political action committee on a personal basis, but not necessarily as Granger. So recently I was involved in one for Oceana County. And then we've been involved with Jackson County when we shared the 360-degree virtual tour of their jail facility as one of the materials that we were asked to develop for Jackson County. But you have to understand, this is new territory here. It's not common for a county to solicit the services of a firm to help with ballot initiative campaigns. It's very common for schools, but it's relatively new for correctional facilities. Why? I couldn't tell you. It makes all the sense in the world. We've been trying to get engaged earlier and earlier on because what we found would happen is somebody would provide some budget numbers, and then on day one, when we get hired, we have to show up and say, sorry, your budget isn't right sized to your program. So we've been trying to get involved earlier on, but there haven't been many opportunities to actually lead a ballot initiative.
Okay, so I'm a little confused. In the previous interview, I think you said you've built 45 jails.
We've built at least that many, yes.
Yes, and I thought it was said you've been successful in 30 bond initiatives, but that's not necessarily jails.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
We've been successful 35 out of 52 times at the first.
35 the first round, 10 more the second round, 11 lost.
Okay, but these aren't necessarily jails.
Correct.
Okay, I get that. Okay, so I just wanted to ask your opinion. What is the position of, say, the sheriff and putting across a successful jail bond? What does the sheriff need to be doing?
From an informational standpoint, being accessible, being visible at these informational meetings, being a person that will have the answers when questions arise. They are really a visible portion of this. Everyone associates that with a sheriff's office, with their face. But from an informational standpoint, that would really be their positioning, being available to the community for questions, and being the face of this campaign would.
Does he have to be out knocking doors? Does he have to be at every township meeting, all the community organizational meetings, or just at these kinds of informational meetings that take place?
I would say informational, yes, not knocking on doors. That would be more of that citizen-led kind of advocacy group.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Getty.
I really appreciate the time and thought, especially laying that out visually, and what we could possibly save and the approach to not trying to work around the housing area, and keeping that intact till we're ready to move them once. I think that's a great idea. Have you ever worked on a project where you housed the inmates in a neighboring community temporarily and then move them back?
Never. We avoid that at all cost. Because if you look at the cost to house an inmate out of county, it may be $50 to $80 per day. But that cost is minimal compared to the transportation cost, because you have to take a deputy off the road or out of the jail to transport them to that adjacent county. Then invariably, oh, my appendix hurts, so you gotta go get him, take him to the hospital, and that deputy has to sit with him at the hospital, and those costs really add up. So we avoid that at all cost. Those costs for even 45 beds can be millions of dollars over the course of, a year. We avoid that at all cost.
And then I think the strategy to engaging a firm at this stage, and you've said how helpful that can be. The earlier, the better. Is that I would expect from you all that have had practical experience building facilities is out of the box thinking. So, you've identified a couple of things, and that's what I would be looking at as your value, is to say, how can we maybe look at this in a different way? Are there, suggestions at how we can use that sort of practicality and that approach to cutting costs with still fulfilling our need to provide a safe facility? So I don't know if there's more, some other input that you had, ideas after touring our lovely facility.
I think what we put together was trying to prove to ourselves conservatively that this project works and that the numbers and math work out. There's obviously opportunities for further reductions. You heard Bailey mention, we felt good about the fact that we have now brought ourselves up in line with a typical cost per square foot, which allows us to look at building systems that are going to provide more longevity for Berry County, and not, hopefully we're all gone before this conversation ever needs to come up again about a new facility, and making sure that we're providing recommendations that promote longevity and as well as operations. As far as any further,
I think it's, like Todd said, we're high level, and the fact that we're brought in early gives us the time to start looking at those value add items as we get into the details. Before we're kind of behind the 8 ball, we have to be the bad guy to say, you don't have enough money, and we're just immediately value engineering stuff and sometimes cutting program, which is a tough thing to do. Now we have the opportunity to start working alongside Evan Marsh and you, understanding where are the buckets, and then start evaluating what does our structure look like. What if we went to this? How much money could we save to then take that money and put it somewhere else? Is there a way to use the contours of the site to our advantage to potentially save some costs to put that money back into the building? So those are things we now have the opportunity to continuously evaluate with the design team, with you folks, since we're brought in early.
Yeah, I mean, I like that you back, for your level of confidence that you can get up to that 30 million. I would love to see even a bigger buffer in that, because, undoubtedly we're going to run into things that we don't know about with the way the facility was constructed.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Smoker.
Yeah, I have a question for the construction guy on site, and I want to make sure I got these right. On the colors, on the yellow, I believe that'll be demoed.
Yes, sir.
On the green, is that housing?
The sheriff's office addition.
Sheriff's Office edition, no.
Then the blue was the intake in the back of house, then the orange was the housing pod.
72 bed housing pod?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm assuming we're building that housing pod almost like a half moon at this point with room for expansion?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, there's like a little, it's that pie piece down in the corner there. There's room for another day room and pod right to the north. That's one of the options that Evan Marsh had.
That was one of the things that I really appreciated about this future expansion, because you folks probably know the political atmosphere changes, rules change, and we may go from 50 people to 100 people. And so, yes,
Mhm.
I really like that. And then on the square footage per bed, you get 450. Could you give me what you've done before in the highest and the lowest?
Yeah, if we can go back to that slide, we used the four most similar facilities we built that were sheriff's office and jails of in that 100-ish bed range. And we did list those four comparables on that slide. Sorry to make you do this, but you're also really great at it. We'll take you to other interviews if you want.
Nope.
It's like a yellow.
Yeah, I think it's slide 3.
Yeah, it's in the beginning.
There, right there.
That's it.
So we have Monroe County, which was a facility built in southeast Ohio, and that one was at 289 square feet per bed. Alpena County, Michigan was 312 square feet per bed for 94 bed facility. Fayette County, I think, was a 120 bed facility at 444, and then Coshocton was 122 or 124 bed facility in Ohio at 458 square feet per bed. And that was our least dense jail and sheriff's office that we have built in that comparables range.
Thank you very much. That's all we got.
I know there's one or two companies that build these pods. So there's not a standard for those that they come out with, that they can build them at 350 or 450 or whatever you specify for them, or do they market them at a certain size?
So they do standardize around IDOC square footage standards. They're obviously completely customizable, but just like any other manufacturing process, as much rapidity as you can build into the design of those, that allows them to maintain their jigs on their welding tables, the more cost efficiency you're going to see. So the more repetitiveness you can have in your cell design will yield less cost.
Okay. When I look at that, it tells me that there's just different square footage sizes based on the jails you've done. It seems like there'd be a standard that you say, hey, we're gonna be at 400 or whatever it is, so. But
I have a question, just a follow-up on that. Is that 350 to 400 square feet per bed for the entire facility?
Yes.
So that's the key difference, is that you are looking at efficiencies probably outside of the actual pods themselves.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Maybe I misunderstood the question. This is overall facility size. Yes, your cell square footages are dictated by MDOC, IDOC standards. And that would be way less than the number you see here.
all right, I'm like, wow. So, Commissioner Hatfield.
Well, I do want to commend you. I think you have taken good advantage of the opportunity to come back and share some additional information, and particularly your observations on the existing jail. And sorry, we've got you looking into the sun right now, but and I think that also your information on the campaign is interesting, because we all know what school campaigns look like. This isn't going to look like a school campaign. We don't have cute little kids running around and things, but I think that I think that your messaging is right on target. So, but there's, I think, a lot that we can do as we build these committees to expand on that messaging. But it really has to be a public safety oriented campaign. Both with the campaign and with the building decisions, we're trying to hire the experts because we're willing to admit that there's a lot we don't know. But it doesn't mean that we don't want to be at the table and included in those discussions, because a lot of what we hear from you may well trigger our own thoughts that might be of some value. So how do you keep us engaged?
In throughout the ballot support?
The whole thing, everything from the campaign to, the work with Albemarle, in finalizing design and specifications.
Sure. Communication is key. There's nothing that replaces effective communication in any kind of project, especially one of this size. I would say that there's multiple communication tools that we use that are all customizable. But you want to talk about developing a steering committee and, kind of working through, meeting with them throughout the project?
Yeah, certainly from an informational and a community side, you know this community very well. You know how people receive their information. Are people willing to show up here and here and here? That's something we would lean on you to help us with as we're planning these outreach messages. What things, like you just said, are going to land with them, what public safety type information lands with what groups. Then we would lean on you for those, but then you can lean on us for when it comes to what resources do we need? What are the steps to take us from A to Z? How often are we meeting? What kind of packets can we give people that set them up for success so that we send our people out into the community with the most and up-to-date information that is best to kind of support them. So it's definitely a two-way street on the informational side. Advocacy, like we had talked about, is more volunteer citizen-led, but there are opportunities for people to do that in a personal capacity as well. But we have guides for what that looks like too.
During construction, it's easy. You just call us and come down.
We love taking commissioners through jail.
I love taking
Oh, I bet
people
you do.
through jail, yeah. It's cool.
We
I
put
mean,
together a
it's-
pretty good tour.
It's cool.
I think early on when you asked with Ed in March, it's, we're gonna sit down with them, figure out what the schedule design looks like, making sure that we're a part of that process, offering cost input. But then we'd ask if maybe one or two of you from the committee could be a part, maybe on a weekly basis, and we can present kind of what we're working on, get your feedback, and then obviously we'd be willing to come back to this group in this setting to kind of show you where we're at, where we're headed, things like that. So we don't want to get too far down the path without your input and realize, oh no, we need to go back and change this or change that. So it's a weekly outreach to hopefully just a few of you, and then coming back monthly basis to the rest of the team to kind of show what we've done and where we're going to go.
Remind me again, what's the working relationship with Evan March? How many, have you done quite a few projects with them? I know we talked about it and I apologize for.
We have. We've built 5 projects with Evan Marsh, and 3 of those have been correctional related, county jail specifically.
Okay. Commissioner Campbell.
Well, first of all, I'm a little scary to go on site. He seems awful anxious to get us there. And there's a lot of cement trucks around. But
We'd look for you.
that being said,
Feels like there's a story there, but I don't know.
that being said, I really too appreciate the in-depth that you've went to looking at what we have. Many of it, we're commissioners, but we don't know every little corner down there, and it's really appreciative that you enlighten that, because we've got to make that same definition to our community and everything. We have to be able to push that on forward to them so they can understand it like you're helping us to understand it. Not only do we have to convince and show them the need to move forward, but also where we're coming from that causes that need. And I think the visual idea and showing that is going to be absolutely imperative in this process. So I really do appreciate the presentation.
Commissioner Tunison.
What was it, last Wednesday we toured that? I said to the chairman when we're walking through there and I was watching you guys all taking notes and everything, I said, these guys are documenting every little detail. It was amazing to kind of watch you guys putting your heads together as you're walking through there. And you got it figured out how to utilize what you can down there and minimal impact to the existing jail facility being in use, right? So, I mean, I thought everything that you presented today was, because I remember saying something to one of you, you gonna have this all figured out by next Tuesday? Yeah, okay. you did a good job, okay? I'm really appreciative of what you guys put the time and effort into that, so about all I got.
Okay. You had mentioned, this is kind of a different process, that most of the time they're coming to you for construction management services after the bond or the millage vote. We know, I say we, being involved in this the second time through now with Tower Pinks the first time through, the pods look the same. It looks like the pod, the intake, the Sally, I don't want to say standard, I mean, I need some customization, but that's the easy part of this. When you're talking about renovating space, that's why we wanted you to see the tour, knew what you were up against. And we're willing to make that investment in the pre-engineering services because we need to know how much of that space we can use, trying to be as frugal as possible and save our taxpayers money anywhere we can. I know we're far away from the finished plan, but the existing area, when you first walk into the sheriff's office and you have all those offices around there, you have training rooms underneath it and some space in there. You don't think that's savable at this point, or that just doesn't really fit with how it would fit into the entire plan with the new pods?
It's a value call. The failing structure scares us. Trying to salvage a structure that's falling apart typically isn't a worthwhile investment. We did put some strong consideration into that housing wing on the south side. And again, the only reason we didn't include that as renovation space is because we know that the staffing costs over the next 50 years will vastly outpace the money that'll be saved by trying to utilize two different housing pods from a staffing standpoint. So the part with the basement, which included most of the sheriff's office, the training center downstairs, we said because of the failing MEP infrastructure and structure itself, the value is essentially the roof at that point, and we're talking $15 a square foot that you'd save.
Okay.
And it's tough to save a partial, I think, basement.
Yeah.
So that's why I think.
But it's such a beautiful basement with the
Right.
wood supports underneath it and everything, so, you know.
Well, and the reason we showed the break between renovation and addition where we did is because we know structurally we can create a building separation there. It's an addition that took place. That's the wall that continues down to footing. So we know we can save that part. There might be other areas we can save. Again, we approach this conservatively of what do we know based on one walkthrough of the facility, where we didn't, really take anything apart. What do we know we can save? And that was the basis of our evaluation.
Okay. And talking about that process, as you mentioned, it's kind of unique for us to be involved in the beginning, or for you to be involved in the beginning. Who's going to mentor these community organizations or these stakeholder groups?
We have a team at Granger that has some bond experience, like we had mentioned, more on the K-12 side, but that are behind this message, that helped with this RFP, that have, been my talking, companions to get to this point. So this is a team that we have resources that we had sent over as far as like an advocacy committee, what steps you need to take, what does fundraising look like, what timelines are involved. So we have a team behind the scenes that also, graphic designers that are all, poised to help on that front for advocacy and informational.
Okay, so we've got there's different stakeholder groups or community organizations to help out with this. Obviously, there's fundraising, there's signage, there's messaging. Who's doing the Facebook? Who's connecting to those smartphones? Who's helping us? And you mentioned something in the beginning as far as figuring out what the needs of the community and what the perspective of the community is, and how to best educate them. Who's going to have those meetings, or who's going to direct those meetings to pull that information so we know what the community's thinking? How do we know there's support for this at all?
Sure.
In the beginning, how do we figure out what the community's thinking?
So for the informational side, you would have a person that's appointed. It's usually not our team who's kind of like the head acting president of that informational committee. It's going to be people who have a stake in this getting passed. people on this board, people who work at the sheriff's office, other people municipality-wise, strictly from an informational standpoint, that we can help from updating websites or designing informational packets, answering FAQs from a design standpoint and from informational standpoint. It's less of us actually pushing things out into the community.
Mhm.
From the advocacy side, that's where you're gonna have more personal capacity, not during business hours, not on company time, stationary, all those things. That's gonna be led by a community advocate. Again, we can help with the planning, but we are not allowed to kind of push those things out. So the social media is going to be a community member. The person doing these forums is going to be volunteer led. We help with the guide. We're less kind of man on the ground. We are not the face of this campaign.
Okay. We just have not, I mean, there's very few people in any community that have pushed a jail bonding issue or a millage out there together. So that's why I was curious if there's mentorship, you know, if
We're
there's,
behind the scenes for
if-
you,
Mhm.
provide resources, give you the tools that you need. But the message really is gonna come from people who are representing Berry County and the.
So if we're doing community information to pull information and to pull public opinion to see if there's support for this, that's on us, basically.
We can create a survey, we can lead that. It might come from a county individual, but we can help with the development of all of those types of outreaches. It just won't come from like a ranger person.
It won't come from a Granger person?
Like I wouldn't email them personally.
Yeah,
Somebody
exactly.
acting on this committee
Okay.
would do that.
So if we needed Facebook graphics, they can put those together for us. We
Yes.
can put them out.
Yep, we have the designers to do that, but we would not have it on our Facebook. if that makes sense.
Okay. And then are you gonna help mentor these community organizations or stakeholder groups once they're together to lead as far as, hey, what do we do? How do we get that? I mean, cause like I said, there's no one's a professional in that arena.
Right.
So-
We sent over a guide, I think Todd did, what we did for a campaign for a school near the Lansing area. It's a 7-page document that talks about, you know, you're on this Vote Yes campaign. What do you need to do? How do you reach people? What kind of messages are you going to convey? If people are interested in fundraising, what does that look like? So that's something that we can provide specific to Berry County.
Unified messaging is critical.
Absolutely.
Everybody's gotta be on the same page, same message, same talking points, accurate information, and a lot of it, because there's always naysayers. There's always people with questions or people. There's millage fatigue everywhere, so, you know,
But
those are things we gotta work
recognizing
through.
Up front is also equally important.
Mhm.
One of the fastest ways to lose this will be to look like we've got but that we've brought in a bunch of hired guns to convince the community. We've got, I think one of the biggest challenges we've got now is to identify some community champions that, you know, are willing to help us lead these efforts. But a lot of it's gonna fall on us too.
Yeah.
It could come across as,
Agreed.
biased or a conflict of interest if we're the ones distributing the information. That's why we're behind the scenes and then.
There's definite legal yeses and nos that are involved in this process.
It's even more than the legal. It's just the whole thing of, yeah, we've gotta own this if we're going to succeed.
Our job is to ask the questions and document your answers into something that looks nice and is presented.
Thank you.
Well, I just think we need a process, because there's gotta be a well-defined process and a timeline on how this is done, how the stakeholder groups are engaged, and if there's no mentorship for that, then we may struggle a little bit. So if you're telling me that you've got a team at Granger that's gonna hold our hand, walk us through and, you know, direct, you know, I think that's what we need to hear, is we need to know that you're behind us, because as you said, you don't normally get involved at the front end of it, you get involved at the back end. So,
In a jail, correct, but for K-12, we are usually at the forefront, so we have people.
if we were putting more little kids in jails, they might vote for it.
Don't tell them that.
Or not.
Don't tell them that? Okay. all right. I'm kidding. For the record, kidding. So, you know.
Mark,
Marcia.
I just want to make one more comment if I can. I mean, your point is well taken. This needs to be grassroots.
Yeah.
We can't have the perception that we're selling this, right? And I've heard that from my constituents.
Yeah.
Is, prove what, prove why,
Mm-hmm.
and let it sell itself once we get the message out there.
Yep.
you know.
I agree.
So,
Okay. Well, I thank you guys for coming back, especially after you got to see our jail.
Thank you for not keeping us in it.
Very, very well detailed presentation with your observations from the tour. So I appreciate you putting the time and energy into that, especially with the messaging and the potential millage campaign. So that's very important. Anything that you guys would like to wrap up with as far as any other parts of Granger you want us to know about? Anything else you want to do for us? I know you said before that you could hit the number. So,
The number.
and that's important to know.
We appreciate this opportunity. This is what we specialize in doing is assisting counties just in the same spot that you guys are in, and we're just very appreciative of you guys continuing to bring us in here and giving us the chance to speak to you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You need a recess, John?
He's already out of here.
The board Eric's in here, okay.
Yes, I'll trade you.
So Commissioners, next on our agenda, we need to debate what you just heard in your second interviews. We need to talk about that and get a feel if there's a consensus to move forward with this. So we're gonna, I don't know if we need to do a straw poll, but I'd certainly like your input. Commissioner Tunison, I'm gonna start with you.
Hey, they're both highly professional, okay? But what I saw out of Granger, I really feel that they're very well prepared to do this project and deeply involve us in it, so, in our input, take our input, so I feel Granger was the better of the two today.
Okay. Commissioner Campbell.
Excellent companies, both of them. Just absolutely excellent. Great job, Eric, finding them for us, and we've had great candidates all the way around. I did appreciate the in-depth, I'm a guy, show me a picture, don't tell me a word. Okay, I like pictures, and it really does show things. It lays it out in my brain and stuff, which sometimes is difficult. So, if I had to lean to the left, lean to the right, I'd probably lean a little farther towards Granger.
Okay. Commissioner Hatfield.
I think we're very fortunate to have two great firms to choose from, but I would favor Granger. I like the work that they put into evaluating the existing facility and what they were able to show us in terms of what can be reused, what's questionable, and what definitely is out. I think in terms of the bond campaign, I think I also appreciated the fact that they were able to at least present messaging that I think works for a jail or a public safety facility as opposed to a school facility. So, Granger.
Okay. Commissioner Smelker.
I'm gonna agree with them guys for the same reasons they said.
Make it simple.
Yep.
Commissioner Getty.
Boy, I liked both of them. I had some pluses and minuses. I really liked Clark's approach to the campaign. And in particular, they articulated their support they would provide to advocacy groups and some information. I think Granger can do that as well. I lean towards Granger, especially because the one move. And they really provided that sort of reverse engineering, how we're gonna do it and within budget. So I'd lean a little bit towards Granger.
Okay. Commissioner Colton.
So in the beginning, this was the idea of, it was an idea. A new jail was an idea. And then there's all sorts of ethereal thoughts where it should be, what it should be like. But the Granger presentation today helped me think of this more concretely than I have ever thought of it or seen it. Really liked the imaging of what it should be and where it could go, what we could still use, what this part's for and what that's part for. Fantastic presentation. I go with Granger.
Okay. Commissioner Bassett.
I think a lot of it has already been said here. I agree with everyone. I think the one thing that I really appreciated was the thoughtfulness and the time I think they put into preparing this and helping me understand it better, such as Commissioner Colton said. But specifically identifying this campaign and what we need to be presenting to our constituents and what issues we need to target. I really appreciated that. So yeah, I'm leaning towards Granger as well.
Okay. I agree with what's been said when we did the first interviews. And even today, I agree with Commissioner Getty that I thought Clark was very strong with their process as far as how they connect this project to people. And I think that's very, very important. So, and I like that in the first interview that we talked to them, that I think they've got a lot of experience in that way. Granger came in very strong with ideas from their jail tour, showing details, more processes and what can be done, budgetary numbers, right-sizing some stuff, so that was impressive to see that on both sides. And I don't think there's a bad decision. I think they're both probably the two highest quality companies that could do this, so there's not a bad decision in there. But I like Clark, but I like them both, so if the board consensus is with Granger, which it has been across the board, I can certainly support that as well. So, do we need a motion on that?
Yeah, I think well, do one of two things. You can give me direction to enter contract negotiations, or you can motion to do it. If there's consensus, I can move forward. If you prefer to have a motion, we can.
We have a board consensus on that. So, and this is for pre-construction services. Is that what we're entering into at this point?
So the contract would be for construction services. There would be you'd start with pre-construction, and there would be an out after, if the pre-construction, after that, it doesn't go further. So there would be the ability to exit the contract at that point.
We don't like the color of the building or something?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, right. All right. So, you're saying that we can give you direction based on a board consensus to move forward with contract negotiations?
You can. If you'd prefer to do a motion, I'm open to that as well.
We've got the,
You got the motion right here.
so.
Okay. The chair would entertain a motion for approval of authorization of the county administrator to enter into contract negotiations with Granger to serve as a construction manager for the proposed law enforcement facility.
So moved.
I'm gonna go Hatfield. Who was second? Carlton? Motion by Hatfield, support by Carlton for approval for authorization of the county administrator to enter into contract negotiations with Granger to serve as a construction manager for the proposed law enforcement facility. Discussion?
My intention would be to have a draft contract hopefully by the September 8th meeting.
Okay.
We've got a review done already. I just need to forward that to Granger now. So Todd will have it before he gets back to his office.
Okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett?
Aye.
Carlton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Hatfield?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smelker?
Aye.
Tunison?
Aye.
And the second part of this is our change order with Abermarsh for their pre-construction services as well. So the chair would entertain a motion for approval of the change order number 1 in the amount of $58,000 to the law enforcement facility architectural and engineering contract with Abermarsh Bice.
So move.
Support.
Motion by Tunison, support by Hatfield. Additional discussion or questions?
I had a question.
Yes.
That included still some more work on a potential new site as one of the options that was listed?
No, we are committed to this current site.
Okay.
Other questions?
This was sent a while ago. We've had this change order before that final commitment was done.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just the within the new scope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Bassett?
Aye.
Carlton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Hatfield?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Smelker?
Aye.
Tunison?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is approved. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, we have none. County Administrator's report.
I'd like to thank the commission and all of especially the 4 commissioners who've been involved in this process for the last year or so. You've been very helpful. Your insight's been appreciated. I will echo what the commission said. The 2 firms we met with, walked through with, I was impressed with. I'm looking forward to moving this forward. As I think we've been talking about this. I know you, Dave, you were a lot longer than me, but my 2 years here, we've been talking about, so I'm glad we've got to this step. We can start moving the ball forward on this. But that being said, yes, tomorrow is actually my 2-year anniversary, so I'm happy to have been here 2 years and look forward to moving this project forward. Also, another project that I knew about when I started was our financial software transition. I'm happy to say that it started yesterday. BSNA staff is currently working with admin and treasurer staff yesterday and today to get everything set up. Next 2 days, we'll have training with all the impacted departments. And next week on Monday, we will go live with BSNA. So it is, that being said, we probably have a day's worth of balancing between Tyler and BSNA and making sure things are where they should be. Everything looks good to date. My last conversation with BSNA staff. And we will have some growing pains. I will guarantee it. There are departments, we're changing processes, so you may get feedback. Just feel free to tell them to talk to admin. That's what we're here for. But yeah, I am excited to get this step forward, at least 6-7 months ahead of Tyler being retired. So very excited about that. So that's where we'll be the next 2 weeks. We are not paying anything this week. We're not transitioning. Nothing is being done this week in the software. So if you hear anybody complain about not getting paid this week, that's why we can't do anything. So we're on hold until next week. So between now and middle September, we'll be working hard on this issue. With this issue now moving forward, we'll have a contract hopefully figured out by the 8th for you to consider. And the Delton project is, I got a couple weeks left of work on that when you get it done and into the state and making sure everyone's on the same page. And I'll just give kudos to Marilyn. Marilyn's been great helping us, even though we can't hire her. She's just Marilyn, so she's helping us out at this point. So you will have another RFP back. State didn't like the fact that we only had one bid on our current grant, our rehab grant, so they made us post the RFP for administration services for the rehab grant. So we'll get that through to you hopefully end of September. So that's what I have for you. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from commissioners? Okay.
Congratulations on your 2-year anniversary.
Thanks.
You beat the over. Chairperson's report. I am all set. Vice Chairperson's report.
I am also all set. Unfortunately, having been out of town most of the last week because of the passing of my father-in-law, I missed a number of my normal meetings. So
okay, I
apologize.
Commissioner reports. Commissioner Tunison.
I don't have anything, Mr. Chair. Got airport tomorrow.
Commissioner Campbell.
We had a health department last Friday. We worked on the budget and also some upcoming fee schedules. We also, last night I was at the CAA and they give their annual report. And tomorrow I'll be at DHS in Thornapple and I can see that beautiful COA building.
There you go.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Smelker.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Getty.
I had Village of Meadowville tonight. I just got an email, we're not having a parks meeting on Thursday, so I get one night off this week.
Commissioner Colton.
I'll mention it now because we don't meet again until then, but on the 7th, on Labor Day, Woodland has a big Labor Day festival.
Oh.
So there'll be a lot of different things going on there.
Awesome. Commissioner Bassett.
I had the opportunity to attend Brownfield's brainstorming session with SME, and so that was informative. And then also noteworthy at the Gun Lake Improvement Board meeting, they've actually started conversations and actually drafted some documents about having the account that is currently held in the county for them to actually take it into GLIB. And so we had a lot of questions about that as a board. So, but just so you know, that's something that they're considering right now. And looking at what do other lake improvement boards do, if there are other models out there for that. So stay tuned on that. Berry Conservation Board tonight and Orangeville next week.
Okay. Thank you, commissioners. Limited public comment at this time. Any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Joel Ibbotson, Rutland Township. It's been a while. Thank you. I'm excited about the progress I see. Tunison mentioned he had an airport meeting coming up. Gino was a wonderful pick to run the airport. As a trucking farm boy, I've never wanted to be more excited about planes. Never had any interest in them until I go down there and run into him. I mean, it's just incredible. Maybe that's my World War II veteran grandfather, Army Air Corps coming out of me. I don't know, but that's just, he's excellent. And this makes me excited. I like the plan. I like what Granger had to say. You can thank me for the reason that the Sally Port is being shored up by timbers right now, because I was there well, first off, let me back up. I did a tour of the jail for an entire shift with a corrections officer back in 2018. And back then I started seeing a number of the deficiencies. I wanted to be booked as an inmate for my study, but DAR wouldn't let it happen for liability reasons. I think Commissioner Smelker was willing to draft a resolution to make it happen at the time.
Arrest him.
However, in spite of that lack of experience, I was able to notice a number of things, including the cracks in the beams under the Sally Port. And I was concerned then that one day a vehicle would drive in and fall into the basement. Well, I was there a few months ago and Berry Township was showing up. I said, hold up before you get that inmate out the back of your vehicle. Ran into the basement, stuck a feeler gauge in the cracks in the floor, and when the vehicle drove in, it allowed me to put a thicker feeler gauge in there. So the floor is literally working on its way of collapsing. So anyway, you're welcome for that. We need a new jail. There is no fixing the one that we have, and it's for the safety of the inmates. It's for the safety of the corrections officers. And just a reminder, not everyone in the jail belongs in jail. There are some cases where innocent people are arrested just as a precaution, like in domestic violence situations. It's a shame that it happens, but it does. And so it's not like we need to have a ball and chain and tent city for everyone, making life as miserable as possible. No, not everyone in there belongs in there. And even for the people that are in there, we at least need to improve the conditions what they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. Greg Moore, Community Affairs Manager with Consumers Energy. A lot of good work done today as you're looking to bring an important, long talked about project to start. I'm here to report on bringing a long time project to a close. So I'm happy to report that as of July 24th, Spring Creek Solar has achieved commercial operation. We are putting power to the grid. It has, like I said, been a long time coming. We have under 20 staff remaining on site doing cleanup, punch list items, mowing. We'll be doing tree replacement for the trees that didn't survive the hot summer. We'll do that here over the probably September, October timeframe and get those all fixed up. We're also going to be adding additional trees. We've decided to add additional trees along the southern part of M37 along the feed pad at the farm to help screen that a little bit better. So as we find those areas, we're going to do a little bit of additional work. We're going to have approximately 5 to 10 Consumers Energy employees on site, probably through the middle of next year. As we continue to get familiar with the site, our operations team becomes comfortable with the operation and the equipment and so forth, just making sure everything's operating as we expect it to. And that will be the only trailer essentially that remains on site. And after that, we'll be removing it and it'll be back to the natural area. So as we talked originally, I want to remind folks, this has been, a 2-year anniversary. Wow. It's been a lot longer for this project. And some of you will remember about 3.5 years ago when we were here talking about a very difficult situation when the Planning Commission was finishing up its work of consideration of a new ordinance, and all of a sudden the state stepped in and decided that it knew better, right? And this commission and the Planning Commission, the county had to make a tough decision. I remember how tough that was talking with many of you. There was a lot of trust that had to go into that. There was a lot of, I remember, why should we even mess with it? Let's just let the state handle it. And we had some long, very difficult discussions. And in the end, you made what I think was the right decision, but it was a tough one, and I want to commend you for that, because we stuck together. You used the ordinance. We told you we would follow the ordinance that you had, even though it did not comport with state law at the time, and it was a good decision. And it allowed us, we didn't just say, trust us. We said, let us earn your trust. And I hope that we've done that. And from this point forward, we'll continue to do that. It's what I consider to be a premier project. The farm that so many people were concerned about and the community told us clearly was important to Johnstown Township remains and is actually larger than when we began. There are more cows creating more milk on that facility than there was at the time it was purchased. Much of the farm is still has crops growing on it to serve the farm. The gas facility, the RNG facility, will hopefully go online next month. That's our hope. So, again, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your patience, and hopefully we'll have a ribbon cutting in the next couple of months, and we'll be able to show off the facility and this $300 million investment that's been made between Barry and Calhoun County. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Great update. Additional public comment?
Hi, my name is Mary Beth Adinek, and I'm concerned about our upcoming elections. There have been a lot of issues raised recently about the security of our elections. However, there doesn't appear to be any actual evidence of election fraud. So if there is no actual documentation of fraudulent voting, what would be the purpose of publicizing the concerns and claims put forth by the sheriff and the clerk? This would in no way aid their investigation. The only purpose it appears is to create distrust in the election process, and it's causing upheaval in our community. What can you do to assure people our elections are going to be safe and fair? And how can we, as concerned citizens, help you? Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Hearing none. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Bassett.
So we have our last Summer Sounds concert in Dalton will be this Thursday, American Country Band. So come on out and enjoy that. And then we are moving the Revitalize Dalton Community Meeting. It was supposed to be on Wednesday night. We figure we won't get people out 2 nights in a row. And it's open houses at the school. So we are going to have a very brief just presentation before the concert on Thursday. So come on out, and we're well underway making plans for Oktoberfest that will be September 26th. So that's it.
Commissioner Colton.
Good.
Commissioner Getty.
Good.
Commissioner Schmelker.
Just a question, is this Summerfest weekend?
Yep.
Does the fire department have a pancake breakfast this month, on the weekend, Saturday?
I think they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's all.
Okay. Commissioner Hatfield.
Summerfest weekend.
Summerfest weekend.
Thanks, John.
Good to know. Commissioner Campbell.
I'm hungry.
Commissioner Tunison.
You know, I wasn't gonna say much, but I think I will. Might as well get this ball rolling right now. So, you know, we're all committed to this, getting this law enforcement facility done. I don't know if there's been 8 people more, and Eric can testify to this, that we've all talked to him about this numerous times. But we're gonna face a lot of scrutiny, okay? Whatever decisions we make, everything else, why didn't we include certain construction management team to be interviewed again? Because we can't afford to be on the job training. They're only building their first jail right now. Okay, and I think it proved today with the companies that came today between Granger and Clark that I think we made the right decision interviewing the 2 of them. Okay, so people don't always have the facts, but they send us emails and everything else saying, you know, somebody was throwing fictitious numbers out there, and why weren't they part of the process? Well, as you can see, nobody had even toured the jail yet to see what could be utilized, what couldn't be utilized, and everything else. So, you know, people have to give us a chance to try to make this work, okay? Because we're committed to making this work. one way or another, and I think we picked a great team today, moving forward with that, so. All I got to say.
Thank you. And I agree. Just like when we kicked off the COA, there's going to be a lot of work on our part to get this off the ground. A lot of communication, a lot of events. So I trust the partner we picked. They build more jails in the Midwest than anybody. I mean, they are far and away number one. I think Clark was number two, and they're both great, great companies. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. I know there's going to be a lot of engineering work, pre-engineering work, a lot of conversations, get the sheriff involved, just a lot of things going on to make this process work on budget, which is the key thing. But the other thing is the messaging and how that literally it's not a jail. This building has to create a safer community through mental health. You know, just through getting people rehabilitated. And we have to look at things that we can do for this facility that's gonna make our community better, safer, stronger for people that work there, people that come through there. So we have to evaluate a lot of different things going forward and get that messaging right so people understand what we're trying to do and do it financially responsibly. So, and this project, working closely with the sheriff, I think he believes in what we're doing. He was there for the tours and saw everything as well, so I think we are on the right path with this. And if Heather Wing was here, she would say this: it's harvest time, so watch out for tractors on the road. Watch out for school buses and watch out for tractors on the road. So, you know, we are in, 'tis that season. Kids are back in school. So, anyways, thank you, commissioners, for your input, for your effort in this whole process, for another long meeting today.